Part 15. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 141. Emperor Jingtai was naturally not an idiot, and he quickly thought of the reason. It seems that the internal rescue of officials by Jin Yue put Li Wenbo and other officials last, which led to this situation. However, Emperor Jingtai could not blame Xia Yongxuan for this matter. Because the Jin Yue indeed saved many officials and did not act against the will. The murderer was a traitor from the demon sect, and it had nothing to do with Jin Yue. It can only be said that those officials were too unlucky to die too quickly and did not insist on waiting for the Jin Yue to rescue them. This is the time of heaven and cannot be violated by manpower. Only an official like Du Ruhei is worthy of being an important minister of my great Zhou dynasty. Emperor Jingtai closed the list and said with emotion, if our officials and people in the Zhou dynasty work together as one, what can we fear from the mere demon sect rebels? Your Majesty said so. Xia Yongxuan and Cao Wanchun both spoke in agreement. At this time, Emperor Jingtai suddenly changed his tone and asked, have you found out who is the traitor of the demon cult who is leading this riot? Is he the ghost emperor? Where is he? Jin Yue learned from Tian Qiaoxing Lu Wushuan's interrogation that the ghost emperor, one of the guardians of the devil's cult, the 7 killing soul eaters, has been lurking in Jinling for many years. Over the years, all the actions of the devil's cult in Jinling city were caused by the ghost emperor, the leader behind the scenes. Emperor Jingtai has been trying to find out this traitor for more than a day or two. But the people from Jin Yue, Liamen, and Dongchang have been investigating for so long, but there is no clue at all. When I returned to your Majesty, the devil's ghost emperor did not show up. Xia Yongxuan said respectfully, so far, the demon sect has only produced some dead soldiers and killers, and many martial arts masters have also been manipulated by the demon sect with poison to serve as dead soldiers. The leading masters 15 are all masters of evil sects, but they are not members of the demon section. It is thought that they were induced by the demon sect for profit. The real master of the demon cult is still hiding in the dark, ready to go. I haven't found it yet. What does Jin Yue do for food? Emperor Jingtai frowned. Weak ministers are incompetent. Xia Yongxuan lowered his head and confessed. Emperor Jingtai ordered capture the thief first and capture the king first. Only by solving the person behind the scenes can this turmoil be completely quelled. The demon cult could launch this attack without any warning, so it must have been planning for a long time behind the scenes. From this point of view, they have been planning tonight's riot for more than a day or two, and there must be backup plans. This nail of the ghost emperor must be pulled out, otherwise I will have trouble sleeping and eating. Your Majesty is wise and hit the mark, and the minister also thinks so. Xia Yongxuan said respectfully, the demon sect has been lurking in Jinling for a long time, and its purpose is not just to disrupt Jinling city. Wei Chen concluded that their ultimate goal must be His Majesty. Are you here for me? It was indeed audacious. Emperor Jingtai sneered disdainfully, if they have the courage, just come. I'm just worried that I can't find any trace of these traitors. I am sitting in Deluo Palace waiting for them to come. As long as they dare to come, I can just catch them all. Xia Yongxuan said with some worry, the demon cult has been planning for a long time. Your Majesty must be on guard. To keep your Majesty safe, how about going to Tongtian Pavilion for a while? Tongtian Pavilion is the retreat place of the ancestors of the royal family, and it can be said to be the safest place in the world. With the blessing of the ancestors of heaven and humans, even if the demon sect comes out in full force, it may not be able to harm Emperor Jingtai. Need not. Emperor. Jingtai waved his hand and said decisively, I am the Emperor of Zhou dynasty. How can I be afraid of a group of demon sect rebels? If I go to Tongtian Pavilion to escape, wouldn't I tell the world that I am afraid of those traitors? Where is the majesty of the Emperor? Besides, it's not worth disturbing the retreat of several ancestors for such a trivial matter. There is nothing like the retreat of the ancestors of the gods, and even the change of imperial power is no exception. Cao Wanchun, the factory owner, stood up to express his loyalty and said, "Your Majesty, don't worry, if there is a traitor from the demon sect who dares to come, I will use my 60 years of hard work to cultivate. The pure boy's skills can resist His Majesty, and he will never let the demon sect's thieves hurt His Majesty at all." Emperor Jingtai stroked his beard and laughed. "I know eunuch Cao's loyalty. With you and Yongxuan as my guards, what else do I have to fear? Weikan, minion, thank you for your trust." Xia Yongxuan and Cao Wanchun hurriedly bowed and saluted. Boom! 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 At this moment, several loud noises suddenly came from outside the Deluo Palace. Emperor Jingtai, Xia Yongxuan, and Cao Wanchun all had profound cultivation skills. You can tell by listening that these loud noises came from different places in the palace. What's wrong? What happened? Emperor Jingtai's face instantly darkened. A forbidden army soldier from outside the door ran in a panic, knelt in front of Emperor Jingtai and said, "Your Majesty, something serious has happened. Highland Palace, Fiyun Palace, and Lanyu Palace are in trouble. The fire has spread and is out of control." Lost? Why is there so much trouble in the palace? And why did the fire spread so quickly? Xia Yongxuan's body swayed, teleported outside the Deluo hall, jumped up to the roof, and took a look at the three fireplaces. In the distance, he saw a sea of fire rising into the sky, and the billowing smoke had swept in all directions. Xia Yongxuan saw this. Knowing the location and intensity of the three fires, I knew everything in my heart. I immediately returned to the Deluo hall and reported to Emperor Jingtai, "Your Majesty, this is not a fire, but an arson. Only by man-made arson can the fire get out of control. Ruo Chen's guess is right, the demon sect thieves have already sneaked into the palace. So brave, you really dare to come." Emperor Jingtai smashed the tea table with his palm and became furious. They were just saying that the demon sect rebels might take action against him as the emperor, but they didn't expect that Cao would arrive soon. "Your Majesty, the demon sect's thieves have appeared. For your Majesty's safety, it's better to go to Tongtian Pavilion for a while." Xia Yongxuan persuaded again. "No, I'll just sit here." "Emperor." Jingtai waved his hand, looked at the soldiers who were as majestic as the mountain, and said, "Pass on my decree, let the imperial army go to put out the fire quickly, and at the same time search for traces of the demon sect's traitors. Anyone found acting suspiciously will be killed on the spot, leaving no one behind. Also, mobilize 20,000 imperial troops to blockade the four gates of Deluo Palace. I don't believe it anymore. Those demon sect traitors can really take away my head under the dragnet of heaven and earth." "Yes, the general will obey the order." After receiving the order, the soldier who reported the message immediately went down to deliver the order. After that, Emperor Jingtai sat peacefully in the Deluo Palace, closed his eyes, motionless as a mountain, calm and composed, without any panic. It was as if a traitor from the demon cult was about to assassinate. He is not the same as the emperor. I have to say that Emperor Jingtai's majesty as an emperor is still very sufficient. Mount Tai collapses in front but his color remains unchanged, and the elk thrives on the left but his eyes cannot blink. Even if the sky falls and the earth falls, I will remain unmoved." Seeing that Emperor Jingtai had made up his mind, Xia Yongxuan and Cao Wanchun looked at each other and stood beside Emperor Jingtai, one on the left and the other on the right, to protect him. The two had six senses fully open, pay attention to every move outside the Deluo hall. Any disturbance will be discovered by the two of them immediately. Anyone who may pose a threat to Emperor Jingtai will be killed by them as soon as possible. In Emperor Jingtai's after the decree was issued, the palace's imperial army immediately took action. 20,000 elite soldiers immediately blocked the entire Deluo Hall, surrounding it so tightly that not even a fly could fly in. Anyone who came close to the Deluo Hall, everyone will be taken down, even the princes and princesses are no exception. If they act rashly, they will even be killed on the spot. The rest of the imperial army searched the palace, looking for traces of the demon sect's rebels, and there were no traces in any remote corner. Let it go. Suddenly, the palace was in chaos, and countless eunuchs and maids were terrified. In Jinling City, there was a magnificent mansion. The outside world was filled with loud killings and chaos, but inside this mansion it was as calm as water, without any ripples. This is Yong'an Prince's mansion. Yong'an King Xia Yuanhao is the younger brother of the current Emperor Xia Yuankai, and is a popular prince. In the perception of the outside world, Yong'an King Xia Yuanhao does not love power, does not participate in government affairs, and only loves romance. On weekdays, in addition to listening to music, his biggest hobby is painting beauties at home. King Yong'an's painting skills have reached the pinnacle, ranking third on the list of talented people. The maids he painted are so lifelike that they seem to be able to it's like coming alive from the painting. There are countless people in the world who love painting who want a painting of a lady by King Yong'an, but they can't get it. His paintings have been sold to a sky-high price. It is not an exaggeration to say that each painting is worth a fortune. But few people know that King Yong'an, who only loves to hang out and listen to music, is actually very ambitious and bent on rebellion. In order to rebel, King Yong'an secretly trained 763 dead soldiers, colluded with military generals, and placed confidants and spies in the court. The only hope is that one day, he can overthrow the rule of Emperor Jingtai and replace him. In the main hall of Yong'an Palace, Yong'an King Xia Yuanhao was wearing golden armor and holding a sword. He was concentrating with his eyes closed. Suddenly, footsteps sounded in the dead palace, and a middle-aged scribe hurriedly he walked in and saluted King Yong'an, "Your Majesty, there is news from the palace that His Majesty has been assassinated." Hearing this, King Yong'an suddenly opened his eyes, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. At this moment, King Yong'an's eyes were very complicated, including excitement, joy, nervousness, sadness and regret. But these emotions were all swept away by Yong'an in an instant. The king hides, and all that remains is steadfastness. The time has come, I have finally waited for this day. "For gentlemen, I leave everything to you." King Yong'an suddenly said something, and 4 people suddenly walked out of the shadows on the left and right sides. Of the 2 people on the left, one was wearing gold clothes and holding a snake staff. The other was wearing silver clothes and holding an iron crutch. The 2 looked gloomy. The lips are sharp, the corners of the eyes are narrow, and the looks are 90% similar. If Xiao Wuji were here, he would definitely recognize them. These 2 people are the 2 famous elders of Jin and Yin in the world. The 2 elders of Jin and Yin come from the 5 Poison sect of Miaozhong and are members of the 5 Poison section, a veteran figure. The 2 of them are brothers and have practiced martial arts together since they were young, so they have the same mind. From childhood to now, they have been inseparable for 2 years, and have not been apart for a day in decades. In addition, neither of them has a wife or children, so it can be said that they depended on each other for life. More than 10 years ago, the 2 elders, Jin and Yin, killed the leader of the 5 Poison sect at that time and betrayed the 5 Poison sect. After that, the 2 wandered around the world and committed many murderous crimes in just a few years. They were criticized by the righteous people of the world. He and the imperial court joined forces to pursue the hunt. One day later, the 2 elders of gold and silver suddenly disappeared from the world and never appeared again. There were rumors in the world that the 2 elders of gold and silver were killed by a master of the righteous way. Some people also said that the 2 elders of gold and silver were killed by a master of the righteous way. They were arrested by Jin Yiwei or the masters of the 6 gates. but no one expected that the two of them would be taken under the command of King Yong'an and become his right-hand assistants in the rebellion. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 142. In addition to the gold and silver elders, there are two masters standing on the right side of King Yong'an. One of them was completely covered in a black robe, and his true appearance was not visible. The other person's hair and beard were all blood-colored, and he was wearing bloody clothes. His aura was sharp and he exuded an endless sense of oppression. This person is clearly the leader of the evil blood sect, and his blood is lifeless. After the four masters came out, they gestured slightly to King Yong'an at the same time and saluted with their hands raised. "I am willing to serve the king." "Thank you, four gentlemen." King Yong'an cupped his fists and returned the salute. These four people are all masters, and even King Yong'an must treat each other with courtesy. Then, King Yong'an stood up and walked outside the main hall. At this moment, there was a dead silence in Prince Yong'an's palace, and you could hear the drop of a needle. Only the drop of a needle could be heard. I saw that the courtyard outside the main hall was densely packed with people. In addition to the small courtyard in front of the palace, the backyard of the palace, the left and right side courtyards, the back garden and every room, there were all people standing. There were thousands of people standing there. Many. These people are all wearing armor, wearing iron masks, holding spears and swords hanging on their waists. They have an iron-blooded killing aura radiating from their bodies. They are all dead soldiers secretly trained by King Yong'an. Wearing armor, King Yong'an came out. Thousands of dead soldiers all knelt on one knee, respectfully saluted and obeyed orders. Their movements were uniform, proving that they were well trained. King Yong'an pulled out the sword from his waist and looked at the army of dead soldiers in front of him. He said loudly, "It has been 7 years. In these 7 years, I have not recognized you, and you have not recognized me. But I have never doubted your loyalty. If things happen tonight, all the kings will be ministers of the dragon, and they will be granted lordships and generals, and they will enjoy endless glory and wealth. If defeated, this king will die before everyone else. Are you willing to be my pioneer?" "I am willing to die for the prince." "I am willing to die for the prince." "I am willing to die for the prince." Thousands of dead soldiers shouted in unison. "Okay, let's get started." King Yong'an struck down with his sword and issued the most treasonous order in the world. After the order was issued, thousands of dead soldiers rushed out of Prince Yong'an's palace at the same time. King Yong'an wore gold armor and rode a sweaty horse. He took the lead and ran towards the palace. Go. Prince Yong'an's mansion is only 2 streets away from the palace, and it's here in the blink of an eye. Before the people on the street, the guards in uniforms, and the 6-door police officers could even react, Prince Yong'an's army had already rushed to the palace gate. What's going on here? Where did all these soldiers come from? Is it the 4 Elephants army? It doesn't look like it, it seems like he came from Yong'an Palace. Where did there come from so many troops in Prince Yong'an's palace? It looks like there are at least 5,000 people there. I've seen more than one, there are at least 8,000 people. They were going to the palace. No way, does King Yong'an plan to? Yujin Yiwei suddenly guessed a certain possibility, his face suddenly changed, and he broke out in a cold sweat. The other police officers and Dongchang fans who discovered the scene also changed their expressions. None of them are idiots. King Yong'an's army rushed towards the palace gate with such ferocity that even a fool could guess his purpose. It's over, something big is going to happen. Jinling is going to change, Dazhu is going to change. What should I do now? Go back quickly and tell the adults about the situation here. Many Jinyue, 6 men policemen, and Dongchang fans all went back to report the news. This is a rebellion. Who would have thought that King Yong'an, who is famous for his talent, never involves in government affairs, and only loves romance, would rebel. And it was hidden so deeply that it actually raised thousands of dead soldiers without knowing it. You know, this is Jinling City, and the Yong'an Palace is only 2 streets away from the palace, which is equivalent to being under the emperor's nose. Right under the emperor's nose. Underneath, King Yong'an quietly trained thousands of soldiers without revealing any news, which shows the ability and scheming of King Yong'an. Just thinking about it makes people shudder. Stop, who are you? Outside the palace gate, there were imperial guards. When he saw King Yong'an coming with thousands of soldiers, one of the centurions immediately roared and ordered, "Close the city gate quickly and intercept the rebels with horse-repelling stakes." Before he finished speaking, a sharp knife penetrated his chest and stabbed out from his chest. The centurion looked at the sharp knife on his chest with dull eyes, blood spurted from his mouth and nose, and he turned around with difficulty, and saw something a strange yet familiar face. That man was the palace guard and his superior. He was kind to him and single-handedly promoted him to his current position. The centurion never dreamed that this person who was so kind to him would kill him. Why? The general used his last bit of strength and asked unwillingly. The guard of the palace gate had no expression on his face and said calmly, "Don't blame me, I didn't want to, it's just God's will. You can go in peace." After saying this, the guard of the palace gate suddenly pulled out the sharp knife, instantly killing the centurion. Then the guard of the palace gate brandished his knife and roared, "Open the palace gate." The 2 soldiers immediately opened the palace door, allowing King Yong'an's army to rush into the palace unimpeded. After all the rebels entered, the palace gate guard ordered the palace door to be closed tightly. The palace door would not open, and outside the palace gate the Jin Yiwei, Liamen, Dongchang Fanzi and 6 young legion soldiers could not enter the palace to rescue him. King Yong'an had been plotting a rebellion for 7 years, and of course it was not just as simple as cultivating thousands of dead soldiers. He colluded with military generals, installed civil servants, there are people from him among all the civil and military officials. And the most critical thing is to enter the palace gate. The palace gate guard has long since surrendered to King Yong'an, and has been lurking for several years, just for this day. After entering the palace, King Yong'an directly led the army to attack the Deluo Palace. There were forbidden troops blocking the way, and they were all killed by King Yong'an. Not only that, there were also people from King Yong'an among the forbidden troops. 5 of the 1,000-man teams directly turned against them and helped King Yong'an massacre his former colleagues. The palace, which was already in chaos, was like a powder keg, completely exploding. The imperial army and the rebels were mixed together. You kill me, and I kill you. There were dead people everywhere. At the same time, people from Jinyiwei, Liamen, and 6 Young Legion also received the news. On a street, Xiao Wuji killed several masters of evil sects. Just when he wanted to take a breath, the sky in the distance there was a Jinyiwei firework that caused the arrow to explode. The direction was still Fuzi, Bijin, so Xiao Wuji had to go. Is it over or not? Xiao Wuji looked at the fireworks and arrows with some helplessness. He didn't know how many demon cult dead warriors and assassins he killed throughout the night. These people were very weak and couldn't catch his move at all. But cai if you kill too many chickens, you will get bored, okay. Xiao Wuji was either killing people or on the way to kill people that night, almost covering most of Jinling City. Thousands of households like Hongjianese, Labie, etc. He was exhausted a long time ago and his internal energy was greatly consumed. The weaker Xian Tianbeihu had already become exhausted. That is to say, Xiao Wuji possesses the full level 9 Yang divine art, his internal energy is endless and his recovery power is extremely strong. Only then can you be full of energy. Mr. Xiao, Bijin Fuzi has summoned you urgently. I'm afraid something big is going to happen. Qinhu Labie came behind Xiao Wuji and said with heavy breaths. Could it be that Fuzi in Bijin was attacked? 100 households guessed. Are you kidding me? Lei Ba glared at the 100 households and said speechlessly, who has the courage to attack Bijin Fuzi, looking for death? Xiao Wuji said expressionlessly, if you want to know what happened, just go back and take a look. After the words fell, Xiao Wuji jumped up and turned into a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, he appeared 100 meters away. Xiao Qinhu is Xiao Qinhu, and he is still very energetic, which is really incomparable. Qinhu Lei Ba shook his head, sighed helplessly, and used Qinggong to keep up. But his speed was very slow, at least twice as slow as usual. It's not that Lei Ba didn't want to go fast, but that he really couldn't go fast. This running back and forth like a dog all night would be tiring for everyone. Only Xiao Wuji, an outlier, could still be in high spirits. Not to mention the other hundreds of households, their speed was extremely slow, and they stopped after running a few steps. Their innate true energy is almost exhausted. We people might as well forget it. A Behu slumped on the roof and gasped, let Mr. Qinhu go back. We are like this. Even if we go back, we won't be able to help. On the contrary, we will only cause more trouble. That's right. Let's use our kung fu to restore our internal strength first. Otherwise, let alone go back, we may die under the sword of a killer in the city. We don't know how many demon sect killers are hidden overtly or covertly. With the way we are now, if we encounter them, we will be dead. Several hundred households looked at each other, smiled helplessly, and all gathered together to recover their blood. Boo, the lightning flashed. Xiao Wuji returned to Bijin Fuzi, and immediately went to Qinhu Zhongtang to meet Yuan Xiong. Third brother, what happened? Xiao Wuji asked. King Yong'an? Is it the Yong'an king who likes to listen to music on hooks? Because they have the same hobbies, Xiao Wuji has heard of the name Yong'an king. He also met him several times when he went to Wanhua Tower. It's hard to imagine that bookish, gentle man with a warm smile on his face all the time. Damn it, King Yong'an actually rebelled. That's right, it's him. I didn't expect that King Yong'an would rebel. He is the brother of the emperor's mother. Yuan Xiong shook his head helplessly and sighed, obviously feeling sad about this. There is no family affection in the Tian family. Although there have been many battles for imperial power in the past dynasties, fathers and sons killed each other, and brothers and sisters killed each other. But witnessing the scene with your own eyes is still embarrassing. Xiao Wuji's mentality is different from Yuan Xiong's. He seems very calm. If you rebel, just rebel. For the sake of supreme rights, it is normal to rebel. It is not a rare thing. Anyway, it is not his rebellion. If there is a chance, Xiao Wuji, I also want to try what it's like to rebel and become an emperor. How can a man live in heaven and earth and live in depression for a long time? If possible, who wouldn't want to sit on that supreme throne? Although he thought so in his heart, Xiao Wuji couldn't show it. Yuan Xiong said seriously, the most urgent task now is to rescue my nephew. That's right. Yuan Xiong nodded and said, now the palace gate has been sealed, and the army cannot enter. The only way is for experts to use light skills to climb over the city wall and enter. But there are rebels left by King Yong'an above the palace gate. If anyone is found to break in, they will shoot them. Innate masters cannot enter at all. If you want to enter the palace, you must be at least a master. I have summoned you back because I want to take you into the palace to save you. Your Majesty does not know whether he is alive or dead at this moment. It is the time for our royal guards to help the country and capture the king. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 143. Xiao Wuji shook his head and said with a helpless smile, "Third brother, I'm afraid you made a mistake this time. Except for me, the other thousands of households in Jinyue will be useless." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw several embarrassed figures. Hurrying over, there were thousands of households including Lei Bie, Hong Zhenese, and others. Everyone's face was pale, their breathing was rapid, and they were sweating. It looked like they had exhausted their true energy internally. At this moment, the combat strength of many thousand households in Jinyue is less than half, and they can only barely protect themselves. They may not be able to dodge the thousands of arrows fired from the palace wall. You know, when King Yong'an rebels, he must use chi-breaking light feather arrows. The chi-breaking light feather arrows are designed to break through the body's protective gang chi. When thousands of arrows are fired at once, even the masters will be shot into hedgehogs. If Lei Bie and others were in peak condition, it would be possible for them to break through the palace wall defenses. But as it is now, it is absolutely impossible. Yuan Xiong understood it at a glance, frowned and said, "I finally know why the demon cult sent so many killers to create chaos in Jinling City. They just want us to be exhausted and overexpend our true energy, so that we are unable to go to the palace to save him." Xiao Wuji nodded and said, "I'm afraid that the masters of Liumen, Dongchang, and Sixiang Legion are now like Jin Yiwei. But the demon sect is the demon sect, and King Yong'an is King Yong'an. Could it be that they are colluding together?" Yuan Xiong changed his voice and said solemnly, "But this is impossible. Even if King Yong'an wants to rebel, he should not collude with the demon cult. By colluding with the demon cult, even if King Yong'an succeeds in his rebellion, he will never be recognized by the ancestors of the royal family and ascend the throne as emperor. The rebellion of the Zhou royal family has existed since ancient times. But civil strife is ultimately a civil strife, an internal struggle for imperial power. No matter who the final winner is, as long as that person is of the blood of the Zhou royal family, he is qualified to ascend the throne and proclaim himself emperor. Zhou will not care. But colluding with the demon cult is different. The demon cult is a remnant of the previous royal family, bent on overthrowing the Zhou dynasty and revolting the country. It is a serious problem for the Zhou dynasty and has been a mortal enemy for centuries. 767. Colluding with the demon cult, the royal celestial ancestor will never tolerate colluding with outsiders to bring trouble to his family. Even if King Yong'an wins in the end, he will be killed by the royal celestial ancestor and removed from the family tree, becoming a disgrace to the royal family and infamy for thousands of years. In a sense, from the moment King Yong'an decided to collude with the demon cult, his rebellion was doomed to fail. He has lost the qualification to ascend the throne and become emperor in this life. We still don't know this yet. I'm afraid only King Yong'an himself knows the truth of the matter. Xiao Wuji looked at Yuan Xiong and said, "The most urgent task is to rescue him first. The longer this goes on, the worse the situation becomes for us." Yuan Xiong nodded and said, "That's all we can do now. Wuji, come with me to the palace. As for the others, just stay in Bijin Fuzi." Yuan Xiong looked at the exhausted Lei Bie and others, and gave the order helplessly. At this moment, the electronic sound of the system suddenly sounded in Xiao Wuji's mind. Ding, the host triggers a mission, capture the king and rescue the driver. It is detected that Xia Yuanhao, the king of Yong'an, has rebelled and has entered the palace. Please ask the host to capture Xia Yuanhao, the king of Yong'an, whether he lives or lives. Mission reward, full-level cloud paling palm. After waiting all night, the system finally sent out the task. The system was silent all night, and Xiao Wuji thought the system had failed. After shutting down the system, Xiao Wuji and Yuan Xiong walked out of the main hall of Qinhu Institute. Xiao Wuji and Yuan Xiong tapped their toes, flew up at the same time, and landed on the roof. The two of them performed Qingkung at the same time and headed towards the palace. Yuan Xiong's movement skills were very good. Every time he teleported, he could reach a distance of 7 to 8 feet, and he could move with one breath. Teleport 5 or 6 times. Xiao Wuji's speed was not slow, and he turned into lightning and kept pace with Yuan Xiong. Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji, BFCC, and sighed with emotion. Wuji, your lightness skills are really extraordinary. You are as good as third brother and I, not even close. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, no, the third brother is too generous. Actually, the Qinggong that Xiao Wuji has shown so far is far from his fastest speed. Just the full level lightning god walking step with full power is far faster than Yuan Xiong. Not to mention the full level wind god legs. If there are two phases, together, Xiao Wuji can make Yuan Xiong unable to see the back of his head in just one moment. Whoosh! 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 Just when Xiao Wuji and Yuan Xiong were rushing forward with all their strength, something unexpected happened. Only a few rapid and sharp whistling sounds of the wind were heard. Several feather arrows flashed with cold light, shooting out from the night sky, directly hitting the heads of Xiao Wuji and Yuan Xiong. The feather arrows were extremely fast, and they had already arrived in front of the two of them the moment they appeared. The same light-breaking energy feather arrows, but the power of these arrows is far beyond those shot by ordinary soldiers. Just because the chi-breaking light feather arrows are covered with thick true Yuan Gang Qi, judging from the richness of the Gang Qi, the person who shoots the arrows must be a master. Careful! The moment he saw the feather arrows, Yuan Xiong shouted a warning, swatted out several feather arrows with his backhand, and smashed several feather arrows into powder. Xiao Wuji stood up, rotated his body in mid-air, and avoided the attacks of several feather arrows. At the same time, he reached out with his right hand and used his Lingzi finger to clamp one of the feather arrows. He threw it with his backhand and the feather arrow shot back. With a whoosh, the arrow was faster than when it came. A man in black clothes in the distance. The masked man immediately fell to the ground and fell from the roof. Before he hit the ground, he was already dead. Xiao Wuji and Yuan Xiong turned over and landed. They saw black shadows flashing around them. They were already surrounded by 3 masked men in black. Surrounded? Including the one who was killed by Xiao Wuji before, there are 4 Grand Masters. Yuan Xiong and Xiao Wuji both looked calm when someone intercepted and killed them. Obviously, they had expected this scene. Can I leave it to you alone? Yuan Xiong asked. Xiao Wuji said calmly, they are just a bunch of chickens and dogs. They can't do anything to me. Third brother, you take a step first, I will be there soon. Okay, I'll leave it to you, be careful. After saying that, Yuan Xiong passed directly through the blockade of 3 people, teleported 7 or 8 feet away, and rushed towards the palace in the distance. The 3 masked men in black did not stop them when they saw this, and let Yuan Xiong left safely. Obviously they also knew that with the strength of the 3 of them, it was impossible to stop Yuan Xiong. Being able to stop Xiao Wuji alone was the limit. Okay, there are only a few of us left. Xiao Wuji looked at the 3 of them and sneered, tell me, how do you want to die? Yellow-mouthed kid, arrogant. One of them roared, his voice was old, he was obviously not young. Be careful, he is Xiao Wuji, ranked 4th on the Earth ranking, with peak master cultivation. If we fight alone, none of us can be his opponent. The second person reminded me with a clear voice. She was actually a woman. Huh, who cares who he is? If he meets a few of us, tonight is the day he dies. The last person's voice was cold, but a little hoarse. Along the way, kill him to avenge Tian Shuixing. The 3 of them looked at each other and launched an offensive against Xiao Wuji at the same time, launching all their killing moves. The oldest old killer flew up, opened his hands like a rock, and then punched out with a powerful punch, hitting Xiao Wuji directly. The heart is at stake. The fists are powerful and indestructible, and the Sanskrit sounds are actually Buddhist martial arts. The huge shadow of the true fist comes through the air, majestic. The female killer raises her hand and shoots out a ball of black mist. The smell is fishy and pungent, obviously contains highly poisonous substances. Those with insufficient strength will become dizzy and bleed to death after just inhaling a small sip. The last killer's figure flashed and disappeared directly. That person practiced assassination and illusion, and could turn himself into a poisonous person. He blends into the surrounding environment and is invisible to the naked eye. He hides in the dark, just waiting for the killing blow. Even though he has a small skill, he still dares to do the same thing. Faced with being surrounded by 3 people, Xiao Wuji didn't even raise his eyelids. With a thought in his mind, the Suiyan knife automatically unsheathed and fell into his hand. There was a clang of the knife. A huge 30-meter sword energy has cut through the air. The old killer's fist didn't even last half a breath, and was defeated by the sword energy. The sword energy crushed down, directly hitting that the old killer was chopped into a blood mist, with no bones left. At this moment, the poisonous mist from the female killer had enveloped Xiao Wuji. The cold killer hiding in the dark thought that the time had come, so he launched a killing move strike. The sword light pierced the black fog and went straight to Xiao Wuji's heart. Just when the cold killer thought he had succeeded, a flash of sword light flashed across his eyes. Then the scene in the cold killer's eyes began to spin upside down. His head had already flown up from his neck, and his body continued to move forward under the influence of inertia, and finally fell to the ground. The last thing the killer saw before he died was Xiao Wuji's cold and heartless eyes. A mere poisonous mist, how could he do nothing to defeat Xiao Wuji? He has the 9 Yang divine art to protect his body and is immune to all poisons. The poisonous mist is not as strong as wine. The last remaining female killer landed on the roof, staring at the poison in front of her. Fog, expecting the cold killer to come back victorious. With a hiss, a black shadow shot out from the black fog, and instantly came behind the female killer. The female killer's eyes were widened, and the depths of her eyes were full of horror and fear. She miscalculated, and it was not her companion who came out, but Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji held the sword in his hand, shook off the blood and ice shards on the blade, and then slowly sheathed the sword. "It is your honor in this life to die under the 6th art of Ahan." A cold voice sounded, and Xiao Wuji swayed and teleported 7 or 8 feet away. After that, a blood mark suddenly opened on the neck of the female killer, and then her head slowly slipped off. At this point, the 3 masters killers, all died in battle. Where did the demon cult find so many masters? These 4 people are obviously not controlled by the poison. Could it be that the bastard ghost emperor has brought in new people? Xiao Wuji was thinking in his mind as he hurried on. The 4 masters he had just killed were obviously different from Bai Junchen. They were conscious and not poisoned. Combined with the names they called each other, it was obvious. They are not martial artists captured by the demon section, they are originally strong men in the demon sect camp. These 4 people are all the masters of the demon sect's Tiangang Hall. But the 4 masters are not a small force, and they cannot be transferred casually. According to the information Xiao Wuji learned, the one who leads all actions in Jinling is the Ghost Emperor 7-kill soul devourer among the 6 guardians of the demon sect. He has 6 powerful Tiangang Grand Masters under his command. But 3 of these 6 people have already been killed by Xiao Wuji kill them, and the other 3 people all lurk into the palace as undercover agents. The Ghost Emperor should not have so many masters in his hands. Unless the demon sect has another strong reinforcement. Is it one of the 6 protectors again? Or one of the stronger 3 demons? Or was there more than one? Xiao Wuji's eyes were cold, and he sneered at the corner of his mouth, and he was actually looking forward to it. He had been feuding with the demon sect for so long, and all he killed were some innate or master level waste, and he was already a little impatient. Shui Ying Guangdao was even more eager for the blood of the strong. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 144. Xiao Wuji has been eager to fight against the demon sect Ghost Emperor for more than a day or two. The system issued a mission a long time ago, requiring Xiao Wuji to kill the demon cult Ghost Emperor. But Xiao Wuji never finished it. It's not that it can't be done, it's that there is no trace of the Ghost Emperor at all. That Emperor Go was so hidden that he didn't even give Xiao Wuji a chance to kill him. I hope that this time, Emperor Go will be more courageous. Xiao Wuji secretly expected in his heart and quickened his pace. Click, just when Xiao Wuji landed on the roof of an attic, Xiao Wuji's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately turned into a bolt of lightning and shot into the distance. Boom! There was a shocking sound. With a loud noise, the attic where Xiao Wuji had just stayed exploded and turned into a huge fireball. By the time the fireball dispersed, the 4-story attic had been razed to the ground and turned into a pile of ruins. From this it can be seen that how powerful was the explosion just now. Thunder! Xiao Wuji looked at the flames, his eyes were cold and his face was frosty. If he hadn't reacted quickly just now, he would have been blown away by the thunder. There are 18 kinds of weapons in the world, some specialize in swords, guns, swords, and halberds, and some seal knives. Those who hang swords specialize in concealed weapons. There is also a group of people who specialize in the art of gunpowder. Tangmen in Shuzhou and Pilai Hall in Jiangnan have warriors who specialize in the art of gunpowder. The imperial court also has a special gunpowder bureau that specializes in gunpowder killings. Weapons. Common gunpowder killing weapons in the world generally include thunderbolts, thunder cannons, thunderbolts, etc. Thunderbolts are the most common, ranging from dozens of taels to hundreds of taels of silver each. When detonated at close range, they can kill first-class warriors instantly. Heavy to the point. Stronger thunder cannons can threaten Grand Masters. And Hongtianlei is a weapon specially used to deal with Grand Masters. Each shot is a top 8th grade magic weapon, comparable to a 9th grade magic weapon. Only however, the creation process of Hongtianlei is extremely complicated, and the success rate is extremely low. The court may not be able to build 5 in a year. Xiao Wuji did not expect that someone would use Hongtianlei to plot against him. This is really a generous move. After all, he is here. The strength shown to the outside world is only the peak of the Grand Master. Using Hongtianlei to assassinate a Grand Master like Xiao Wuji is already overkill. Whoosh! At this moment, a black shadow flashed past and appeared in front of Xiao Wuji in an instant. It was a man wearing a mask with a ghost face. The ghost-faced man raised his hands and claws to grab Xiao Wuji's throat, revealing his murderous intent. Xiao Wuji reacted quickly, pointed his backhand, and hit the man's palm, forcing him back 7 or 8 times. Jong! The ghost-faced man turned over and landed on the roof. He grunted and clenched his palms into fists. Blood continued to leak out from between his fingers, and the back of his hands was dripping with blood. Xiao Wuji's spiritual finger was hit in the front, and a hole had been poked out of the man's palm. The blood holes are transparent from front to back. Your strength is not just as simple as the peak of a Grand Master. You hide it so deeply. The ghost-faced man looked at Xiao Wuji with cold eyes and said in a low voice. Xiao Wuji patted the non-existent dust on his chest and said lightly, "Everyone who knows the secret is dead, and you are no exception. It's a pity that you just used Bangtianlei instead of Furious Kylin, otherwise I might have been seriously injured by now." The Fury Kylin that Xiao Wuji said is an upgraded version of the Thunderous Thunder, and is also the most powerful gunpowder weapon that has ever appeared. It was built by the Shangguan clan in the previous dynasty with endless efforts, and it was enough to threaten the strongest masters at the peak of the Grand Master. More than 100 years ago, there was a bloody battle between the Xia clan and the Shangguan clan, and many great masters of the Xia clan fell to the furious Kirin. Later, with the defeat of the Shangguan clan and the demise of the previous dynasty, The method of creating the Furious Kirin was completely lost. Now there are only 2 Furious Kirins left in the Great Zhou dynasty. They are all placed in the Wanbao pavilion in the palace. They are one of the most precious treasures of the court. There may also be some within the demon sect, but the number will not be too many. Think about it. How could the demon cult use the Furious Kirin to deal with a small master like him? It's not so wasteful to use a cannon to kill mosquitoes. Even without the Furious Kirin, I can kill you today. The ghost-faced man spoke indifferently, and suddenly took out an elixir from his arms, raised his head and swallowed it. The moment the elixir entered the body, the ghost-faced man's body burst out with a majestic sea of true energy. His aura climbing steadily, he broke through from the pinnacle of Grandmaster to the half-step Grandmaster in an instant, and it didn't stop yet. Finally, with the roar of the ghost-faced man, he broke the barrier and stepped into the Grandmaster realm that the world's warriors dream of. Xiao Wuji looked at him. The ghost-faced man said, the life-eating pill is the medicine of tigers and wolves. If you take it forcefully, you will suffer backlash. Once the effect of the medicine wears off, you will either die or be disabled, and you will become a disabled person in this life. The ghost-faced man snorted coldly and said, Master has ordered me to take your life. As long as I can kill you, it's worth paying no matter how much the price is. Just die. The ghost-faced man jumped up and jumped into the air. The real energy in his body surged, and turned into a huge palm to slap Xiao Wuji. The giant palm was full of ghost energy, carrying the sound of countless wails and howls of ghosts, and crushed towards Xiao Wuji. Next, it is the magic sect's secret skill, Yama's evil palm. If I'm not mistaken, you are the ghost-faced man from the devil's cult who has appeared frequently recently, right? Xiao Wuji snorted coldly, and reacted faster with his hands. He raised his hand and raised his palm from bottom to top. The roar of the dragon resounded in the sky. It was the flying dragon in the sky with the 18 dragon subduing palms. The golden dragon roared into the sky and struck head-on. On the palm of Yama. There was a loud bang, and the black palm shadow shattered and disintegrated, turning into powerful true energy and suddenly exploded. The true energy swept out, hit the ghost-faced man's chest, and knocked him away. The ghost-faced man flew away. He flew out upside down, vomiting blood, and his eyes were round. Even with a mask, he couldn't hide the horror in his eyes. Your strength. Although the ghost-faced man guessed that Xiao Wuji was hiding his strength, which was comparable to that of the Great Master, he didn't expect that Xiao Wuji was hiding much deeper than he thought. He used the life-devouring pill to burn his life and forcefully broke through. With a killing blow, Xiao Wuji casually defeated him. That relaxed and understated look all proved that Xiao Wuji's strength was far superior to him. He was not an early Grandmaster, at least he was a late Grandmaster, and even more powerful. This is impossible. The ghost-faced man roared in disbelief. He gritted his teeth suddenly, and the ghost-faced man came back. All the true energy in the body gushes out, and even forcibly refines the life-eating pill in the body. The full effect of the medicine was instantly stimulated. The huge true energy penetrated all the acupuncture points in the body, because the true energy was so huge and turbulent that it even tore the meridians. The flesh and blood of the ghost-faced man exploded, and the blood surged. He was seriously injured in an instant, but his momentum was unstoppable. The rhythm is soaring. He has exhausted all his life force, just for the final blow. Yama's tribulation of hundreds of ghosts. The ghost-faced man slapped his palm, and the endless true energy turned into waves, crushing towards Xiao Wuji. The true energy turned into ferocious and roaring ghost soldiers, all of which were holding swords, as if they were going to kill Xiao Wuji. Chop it into pulp. If you are exposed to hundreds of ghosts walking at night, you will surely suffer the pain of being devoured by hundreds of ghosts, and you will die without a whole body. Even though he has a small skill, he still dares to do the same thing. Xiao Wuji's eyes were cold, and Shui Yin's sword automatically unsheathed itself and fell into Xiao Wuji's hand. The sword struck down angrily, and all the ghosts in the forest were shattered into pieces in an instant, disappearing. This move was clearly a slash from the god of death. Please give me flowers to slash with one sword. Come out, all the gods and Buddhas will perish, and all ghosts will be destroyed. Along with the wails and roars of the fierce ghosts, all the ghost soldiers disappear into smoke. The sword light is vertical and horizontal, and the castration is endless. It hits the chest of the ghost-faced man. After breaking the chest, the remaining strength does not stop, flying towards the sky behind. Kang Lang, Xiao Wuji held the sword in his hand and sheathed it. Only a loud click was heard, and the attic under Xiao Wuji's feet was split into two from the middle. The ghost-faced man's chest also sprayed a large amount of blood, the whole person slowly cracked from the middle. Even until death, the ghost-faced man did not close his eyes, and there was still a murderous rage deep in his eyes. It's a pity that a master at the pinnacle of the Grand Master can only act as a dead soldier and a lackey, unable to even control his own life and death. Xiao Wuji looked at the two halves of the corpse with cold eyes, shook his head indifferently, and then looked at the palace in the distance. A sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. Ghost Emperor, I have pulled out all your claws and teeth, and now only you're gone. Tisk. Xiao Wuji turned into a bolt of lightning and shot towards the palace. Just as he arrived outside the palace gate, Xiao Wuji had already heard bursts of killing sounds coming from inside the palace. I guess the bloody battle inside was going on. It is in a white-hot stage. Outside the palace gate, soldiers of the Four Elephants Legion are gathering here. The soldiers of the Four Elephants Legion are fighting with the rebels on the palace gate, trying to rush into the palace to save them. Jin Yiwei, Six Gates, the masters from Dongchang also desperately used Qinggong to rush towards the palace wall. However, the rebels had a geographical advantage, and under the volley of thousands of chi-breaking light feather arrows, the masters who flew up were already shot into pieces before they even got close to the palace wall. The hedgehog fell from the sky. However, even so, each master rushed forward desperately. Maybe some of them were really loyal and patriotic and wanted to save the hedgehog. But most of them did it for credit. Once the hedgehog was rescued, success is a huge achievement. Let alone being promoted to the third level, being awarded a title is not a problem. Although tonight is dangerous, it is also a one-in-a-million opportunity. The masters of Jinyue, the masters of Six Gates, Dongchang Fanzi, as well as the soldiers of the Four Elephants Legion, they don't want to miss this opportunity. Has Yuan Xiong already entered? Xiao Wuji didn't see Yuan Xiong's figure. He thought he had already entered the palace. The palace rebels could stop the masters, but they couldn't stop the great masters. Although I don't know why Yuan Xiong didn't help these people eliminate the rebels. Open the city gate. But Xiao Wuji thought about it. Yuan Xiong should rush to rescue him. After all, the emperor's safety is the first priority. If the emperor dies, then Yuan Xiong will help the Four Elephants army to open the palace. The door is useless. By then the situation has been decided. Not only will they fail to save him, but they will be charged with leading troops to invade the palace. Go up, keep going up, even if there are piles of corpses, you have to rush up for me, the general. A general wearing red armor and a Suzaku mask roared with his sword. Xiao Wuji recognized his armor and mask. This man was the chief general of the Suzaku army. In addition to him, the chief generals of the Qinglong, White Tiger, and Suanwu armies also they all arrived. The Four Elephant Legion set up ladders to attack the city, and the sound of killings was everywhere. Some soldiers set up siege pillars, slammed against the palace gate, trying to open the palace gate and rush into the palace. What a meat grinder! Xiao Wuji looked at the soldiers who were dying and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Since ancient times, no matter which dynasty or generation, war has been a huge meat grinder for soldiers and officers at the bottom. Forget it, let me help you. Who made me so kind? Xiao Wuji jumped up and turned into a bolt of lightning that shot directly at the palace gate wall. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 145. Xiao Wuji jumped up and turned into a bolt of lightning that shot directly at the palace gate wall. At this moment, the masters of the six gates, Dongchang Fanzi, the soldiers of the Four Elephants Legion, and the rebels all saw the lightning transformed by Xiao Wuji. Who is this person? What an amazing light skill! At a beautiful speed, the lightning flashed and he was close to the palace wall. It's Xiaoqianhu. Only Xiaoqianhu has such fast Qinggong. Xiaoqianhu will definitely be able to deal with those rebels. A Jin Yiwei recognized Xiao Wuji's Qinggong movement and immediately cheered. Other masters also heard the Jin Yiwei's cheers and knew Xiao Wuji's identity. It turns out that he is Xiao Wuji, the fourth master on the Earth ranking. It really lives up to its reputation. Great, with the help of this person, we will be able to capture the rebels. The masters of the six gates, Dongchang Fanzi, and the generals of the Four Elephants army all looked overjoyed. However, the rebels on the palace wall were shocked. The rebel generals brandished their swords and roared, "Shoot the arrows, shoot them quickly, and kill him. I come." At the command, thousands of arrows were fired. Countless chi-breaking light feather arrows shot at Xiao Wuji like a torrential rain. All Xiao Wuji's retreat routes were blocked by the feather arrows. There was no way to retreat or escape. He could only a head-on fight. Under such an offensive, thousands of Jinyiwei like Lei Ba and Hong Zhenyi's would be shot into hedgehogs in an instant, and their bodies and souls would be destroyed. But Xiao Wuji was awe-inspiring and not afraid of 800. Facing the rain of arrows shooting from the sky, Xiao Wuji destroyed the true energy in his body, gathered it in his body, put his palms together up and down, and pushed them out. It was the 18 dragon subduing palms. The dragon has regrets. Roar! Dragon! The sound of roaring resounded through the sky, shaking all directions. Everyone looked up and saw the countless chi-breaking light feather arrows all stopped a few feet away in front of Xiao Wuji, unable to make any progress. This is impossible. When the rebel general saw this scene, he looked horrified and roared. Suddenly, the rebel general saw Xiao Wuji's cold and heartless eyes, and a feeling of fear suddenly surged into his heart, and he shouted a warning, "Be careful." But it was too late to warn at this moment. Xiao Wuji pushed out his palms flatly, and the golden dragon rushed forward. The powerful true energy was wrapped in a rain of arrows and shot back. Whoosh! 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 Countless chi-breaking light feather arrows hit the target, immediately bringing out a large amount of blood and continuous screams and wails. The speed and power of the feather arrows shot by Xiao Wuji with the power of his palm far exceeded those of ordinary soldiers. After an arrow hits the target, it can even penetrate the armor and kill one or even two people behind. The rebels fell in pieces like wheat, and the palace wall guards were instantly emptied. The rebel general I still wanted to stop him, but I was struck by the golden vacuum energy that passed through my chest. With a loud bang, the rebel leader's body exploded, and no bones were left. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Xiao Wuji let out a roar, turned over and landed on the city wall. A few soldiers who were lucky enough to survive rushed towards Xiao Wuji immediately. Xiao Wuji saw Long Zaishan with his backhand and slapped them all. Blood mist. Immediately, Xiao Wuji stood on the palace wall and shouted angrily, "The rebel general is dead. If you don't catch him without mercy, when will we wait?" Xiao Wuji's voice merged with powerful real energy, like a loud thunder, and spread in all directions. Everyone inside and outside the palace gate heard Xiao Wuji's roar. The only remaining rebels were frightened when they saw Xiao Wuji, who was like a god and a demon. My body and mind were shaking, my body and mind were chilling, and my whole body was shaking involuntarily. I only heard a clanging sound, and countless swords fell to the ground. One of the rebels was the first to be unable to bear it, and knelt down to surrender. The first person will be the one who surrendered. The second person. Once the panic of surrender begins to spread, it is like a flood that bursts its banks and can no longer be stopped. One after another, the rebels kneel on the ground, holding their heads in their hands, begging for mercy and surrender. Great, win. The masters of the Jinyaiwei, the six-door policemen, Dongchang Fanzi, and the generals of the Four Elephants Legion below saw the scene and all showed joy. So strong, Xiaoqianhu is too strong. See it? That's Xiaoqianhu from our Jinyaiwei team. One man single-handedly defeated the rebels. Xiaoqianhu is invincible. Many Jinyaiwei cheered and cheered for Xiao Wuji. The Liaoman policemen, Dongchang Fanzi, and the soldiers of the Four Elephant Legion also respected Xiao Wuji. The leader of the Four Elephant Legion seized the opportunity and immediately ordered the city gate to be breached. Finally, under the leadership of Xiao Wuji, the army entered the palace. Xiao Wuji was the fastest. He left everyone behind and entered the palace alone. However, after entering the palace, Xiao Wuji was in trouble. Because he had never been to the palace before and didn't know which way to go. How big was the palace? Xiao Wuji didn't know. It was simply a city within a city. There were hundreds of halls and thousands of rooms. He didn't know the logo at all. Where is the palace? No matter, just walk around. Xiao Wuji randomly chose a direction with the loudest shouts of killing. Xiao Wuji walked along the Dragon Road. There were corpses everywhere along the way, and the blood had dyed the road and steps red. The whole palace was filled with the smell of blood. It's disgusting. There were rebels fighting against the imperial army in the palace, but Xiao Wuji did not intervene. Even if these small groups of rebels were killed, they would have no impact on the overall situation. The way these people died was wrong. At this moment, Xiao Wuji came to a corpse and carefully examined the corpse. He saw that the corpse seemed to have been scorched, black and shriveled. But here there were no traces of the fire. The hundreds of corpses around all died in this way, and some had even been burned to ashes, leaving only a human-shaped black mark. What a domineering martial arts! With Xiao Wuji's knowledge, he can naturally see that these people were not burned to death by open fire, but killed by some kind of martial arts. This made Xiao Wuji couldn't help but think of the blood-red clothes that died in his hands. Blood-red Yi's blood transformation technique has the power to make the human body's blood boil and the internal organs to spontaneously combust. When practiced to a great extent, it can even instantly burn a person to ashes from the inside out. Could it be that Shui Wuxian is here too? After killing Shui Hong'ai, Xiao Wuji checked Shui Hong'ai's background and found out that his father was Shui Wuxian, the leader of the evil blood sect. This man was also on Xiao Wuji's must-kill list. Since he had formed a grudge, naturally, we must eradicate the root cause without leaving any further trouble. Xiao Wuji originally planned to take the time to go to the evil blood sect and settle the matter completely. However, he did not expect that Shui Wuxian himself came to the door and participated in the rebellion of King Yong'an. Ding, the host triggers a mission, eradicate the weeds. After detecting the host, he killed Shui Hong'ai and formed a life and death feud with Shui Wuxian. The purpose of Shui Wuxian's visit to Beijing this time is to kill the host and avenge Shui Hong'ai. He asked the host to kill Shui Wuxian. Mission reward, full-level Skyfrost Fist. Listening to the system prompts in his mind, a sneer appeared at the corner of Xiao Wuji's mouth. It was really hard to find a place through iron shoes, and it took no effort to get there. With a tap of his toes, Xiao Wuji jumped up and turned into a bolt of lightning to shoot at the man shouting to kill. The direction with the loudest noise. Soon, Xiao Wuji came to the roof of a palace. Xiao Wuji looked down from a high position and looked up, only to see two armies fighting fiercely in front of a hall. The armies of both sides fought bloody battles, life and death, and people were killed every moment. The three characters Delugo Hall were written clearly on the plaque of the main hall. The three characters are flying like dragons and phoenixes, flowing like clouds and flowing water, and the pen is as sharp as a knife, which contains a domineering power to dominate the world. Xiao Wuji had long heard that these three words were written by Emperor Jingtai himself, and now it seems that they are indeed true. So, that person is the Dog Emperor. Xiao Wuji looked at a figure in front of the Delugo Hall from a distance. The man was wearing a luxurious robe and a golden crown. He stood with a sword, his hands folded on the hilt of the sword, his face was solemn, his expression was cold, and he had an imperial majesty spreading out invisibly. On his left and right sides, each stood a master with a fierce aura. One person was wearing the Fi'io suit of the Jinyue, and he was Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyue, ranked 10th on the heavenly ranking. The other person was wearing the eunuch uniform, presumably Dong Factory Duke Cao Wanchun. Facing Emperor Jingtai from a distance was a middle-aged man on horseback, wearing gold armor and holding a blood-stained sword. The man looked a lot like Emperor Jingtai, so he was probably a rebel. King Yong'an. Beside King Yong'an, there are also three masters standing proudly. Two old men stand on the left, one wearing gold clothes and the other wearing silver clothes. Their faces are gloomy and their eyes are fierce. Occasionally they make a few jeering sounds. Weird smile. Although Xiao Wuji has never seen them before, but judging from their appearance and the unique weapons in their hands, he has recognized them as the two men of gold and silver who are famous in the world. Although they have not been seen for many years, but the menacing power still exists. Jin Yiwei has wanted them for many years, and the wanted order is still kept in the archives. The last person was wrapped in a black robe. As soon as Xiao Wuji saw this person, he felt uncomfortable all over. It's a kind of disgust that radiates from the bones. At this moment, the man in black robe suddenly turned his head and looked in the direction of Xiao Wuji. He saw that there was no one on the roof of the palace, and there was nothing. Did I see it wrong? The man in black robe had a fierce look in his eyes and glanced back and forth over the palace. He looked away after a long time. Xiao Wuji hid under the eaves of the palace, secretly shocked. This person has such a strong sense of perception. Thankfully, he reacted quickly just now, otherwise he would have been discovered by the man in black robe from 3.0. At this moment, the two armies were fighting. Whether it was Xia Yongxuan, Cao Wanchun, or the two masters of Jinyin, their attention was focused on the battlefield. Wuxia was not paying attention to him. Therefore, Xiao Wuji's existence was not discovered. Only the man in black robe immediately sensed Xiao Wuji's secret surveillance. This person is definitely not simple, he is most likely the old bastard ghost emperor. Xiao Wuji's eyes were cold, and he quietly changed his position and looked down again. The two armies had completely killed each other. Masters from both sides came out, and even the Grand Masters participated in the battle. Yuan Xiong came to the palace first. Among them, I saw Yuan Xiong flying up and fighting with an old man in blood-clothed clothes. Yuan Xiong's palms were powerful and deadly. The old man in blood-clothed body was filled with blood-colored mist, roaring back and forth. He was no more powerful than Yuan Xiong. Weak. The first time Xiao Wuji saw this person, he was sure that this person was Shui Wuxian whom he wanted to kill. Just because Shui Wuxian was dressed exactly the same as Shui Hong'ai, and the martial arts they used were exactly the same. To say that it's not a father-son relationship. No one would believe it if I told it. Is Yuan Xiong trying to steal my head? Xiao Wuji looked at Yuan Xiong who became more and more courageous as he fought, and he murmured in his heart. He knew how loyal and patriotic Yuan Xiong was. At this moment, in front of the emperor, Yuan Xiong naturally fought with all his strength and did not hold back at all. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 146. Fifth brother, do you really want to go all the way to the dark side? At this moment, Emperor Jingtai suddenly spoke, his voice booming, full of imperial majesty. If you lay down your weapons and surrender now, I can still save your life for the sake of my father, the emperor, and my empress, and out of consideration for my brotherhood. Humph, you stupid king, you don't have to be pretentious anymore. King Yong'an snorted coldly and growled, you are ignorant and ignorant, you do not understand people well, you favor rebellious ministers, and harm the people. As a result, the power of the Zhou dynasty is weakened, and the treacherous ministers cause trouble. The country is in chaos every year, and there is chaos from all directions. You knew clearly that Li Wenbo was a traitorous minister who brought harm to the country, but you still allowed him to frame up loyal and good people and form cliques for personal gain. Do you know how many loyal and patriotic ministers died because of you? Above the temple, rotten wood serves as an official, among the palace walls, animals eat and drink. A group of wolf-hearted people are in charge of the government, servile people are taking charge of the government. Do you know that the common people are suffering from misery because of your stupidity? At this time of national crisis, as the son of the late emperor and an orthodox bloodline of the Zhou royal family, I naturally have to stand up to save the Zhou dynasty and save the people of the world. Xia Yuankai, if you still have any conscience at all, you should kill yourself with a sword to thank the world. An unprincipled and ignorant king like you is truly a disgrace to our Zhou royal family. King Yong'an cursed loudly, his voice booming and deafening. Every word was as sharp as a knife, and the scolding made Emperor Jingtai's face so gloomy that water dripped from his face. Even Xiao Wuji, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but sigh, well done. King Yong'an is indeed a person who has been on the Tianji talents list, and his literary talents are really worthy of his reputation. To be honest, Emperor Jingtai is not a good emperor. Xiao Wuji doesn't have much favorable impression of Emperor Jingtai. Regardless of King Yong'an whether they were high-sounding or pretentious, his words really struck a chord in Emperor Jingtai's heart and made him furious. You bold traitor, you colluded with the demonic cult and plotted rebellion, which is beyond the pale. Now you still dare to bark and talk nonsense in front of me. It is really shameless. I originally wanted to be lenient with you for the sake of my closest relatives. Since you don't have to drink wine as a penalty, then don't blame me for not remembering our old relationship. All armies come together to capture this traitor and traitor. Whoever takes Xia Yuanhao's head will be rewarded with 10,000 gold. The emperor's golden words will never go back on his words. Under a heavy reward, there must be a brave man. The 20,000 forbidden troops roared in unison and charged towards the central army Xia Yuanhao. Xia Yuanhao's army was not to be outdone, killing the enemy with blood and fighting strength. No weaker than the forbidden army. Mr. Blood, it's up to you. King Yong'an suddenly shouted towards Shui Wuxian in the distance. Shui Wuxian did not look back when he heard the words, but just nodded. He and Yuan Xiong were facing a palm, and they quickly retreated with the help of the impact of the palm. Several turning over, he landed in the center of the forbidden army like a hawk landing on the ground. The forbidden army had already opened a battle formation, with Captain Yin Yang of the 1,000-man team acting as the eye. Seeing Shui Wuxian falling into the formation, a 1,000-man team immediately charged in. Facing the siege of the army, Shui Wuxian was not afraid of danger, with a cruel sneer at the corner of his mouth. With a bang, the terrifying true energy burst out from Shui Wuxian. Large swaths of blood-colored mist filled the air, instantly covering up the thousands of people who rushed up. The team is enveloped. Ah! Frightened screams and noisy screams rang out in the blood mist. No, this blood mist is poisonous, retreat quickly. The army stops advancing. Evacuate quickly. Large areas of forbidden army soldiers wailed in pain. They felt as if their internal organs were being burned by fire, and the meridians throughout their bodies were extremely painful. Lingqi's execution was nothing more than that. Only a series of soft popping sounds were heard, and countless soldiers spontaneously commusted without fire, and finally died as ashes. In the blink of an eye, a 1,000-man team of the Forbidden Army was killed by Shui Wuxian, and the commander of the 1,000 soldiers, Captain Yin Yang, also died tragically in the blood mist. Hiss! What a powerful blood-transforming method! At this moment, a series of gasps of air rang out from all directions. Yuan Xiang, Cao Wan Chun and other great masters all changed their expressions, and their faces became solemn. Although it was not the first time for King Yong'an and the two elders of Jin and Yin to see Shui Wuxian perform the blood transformation method, they would like to see each other again at this moment. Still can't hide the shock in my heart. Okay, Mr. Blood is good at martial arts. With the help of Mr. Blood, this king can be compared to an army of millions. King Yong'an was shocked in his heart and blurted out applauding Shui Wuxian. Your Majesty, please be careful. This person is Shui Wuxian, the leader of the evil blood section. He has a terrifying and treacherous blood transforming technique. You must not approach him. Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyi guards, stood in front of Emperor Jingtai and shouted a warning. Emperor Jingtai naturally saw the scene of his forbidden troops being massacred, and his heart was filled with anger. The great Zhou dynasty's battle array was powerful, and as long as the number of people was large enough, it could even compete with even kill the powerful master. But the battle formation is not invincible, there are still ways to break it. There are two most common ways to break it. The first one is the simplest and crudest, using force to break the law. As long as the strength is strong enough and the internal strength is deep enough, forcibly breaking the fusion formation I of the battle formation, it can naturally destroy the battle formation. The second type is similar to Shui Wuxian, who breaks the formation with poison. The poison kills people silently. Shui Wuxian uses the blood transformation method to create blood. The mist contains blood poison, and you will be poisoned if you inhale it. The battle formation can only fuse the internal forces of the soldiers together, but they are still mortal bodies and cannot resist the invasion of the blood poison. Once the soldiers are poisoned, they will be in pieces. With his tragic death, the battle formation naturally collapsed. In terms of strength, Xia Yongxuan, the man in black robes present, and even Xiao Wuji in the dark were stronger than Shui Wuxian. But in terms of killing methods, Shui Wuxian was the best among them all. Arguably the first. He has a blood transforming magic, which is extremely poisonous. He will die if he touches it, and he will die if he touches it. He is not afraid of group battles at all. No matter how many people come, he will kill them all by himself. Blood has no life. The killing efficiency of one person is comparable to that of all the great masters present. After instantly annihilating a team of 1,000 people, Shui Wuxian smiled ferociously, raised his hand and struck out with a palm. Under the control of his true energy, large swaths of blood mist spreading in all directions, it continued to swallow up a large number of Forbidden Army lives. Stop! Yuan Xiang roared, flew up, and aimed at Shui Wuxian with both palms, striking directly at the vital point. But Shui Wuxian did not entangle with Yuan Xiang, flew to dodge, and just blindly killed the Forbidden Army soldiers. He was the only one who could kill. The effect is comparable to that of an army of 10,000 people. Wherever the blood mist reaches, large areas of the Forbidden Army die tragically. The Forbidden Army can naturally retreat, but once it retreats, it will kill Jingtai behind him. It is absolutely not allowed for the emperor to come out. Therefore, the imperial army has no choice but to retreat and can only attack head-on. Ha 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 ha, Xia Yuankai, your imperial army will be killed by me soon. When King Yong'an on horseback saw this scene, he couldn't help laughing proudly. Roar! At this moment, a roar of wild beasts suddenly sounded, shaking the sky. I saw a ferocious beast rushing into the blood mist. In the midst of it, the blood mist was torn apart in an instant. The ferocious beast was transformed by the pure essence, and the blood mist dissipated wherever it went, killing a large number of Yong'an King's rebels. The ferocious beast rampaged, carving a path of blood, heading towards running away with blood and no life. The ferocious beast is Qianqi. When Shui Wuxian saw the ferocious beast coming towards him, his face suddenly changed, and he quickly flew to dodge. However, he was still hit by Qianqi on the shoulder. Shui Wuxian flew out upside down, gulping blood, and landed heavily at the back of the battlefield. Cough cough cough. The four symbols of ferocious beasts. Jin Yi Wei Commander Xia Yongxuan is really awesome. Shui Wuxian raised his head and looked at the solemn figure from a distance, his face extremely solemn. The battlefield was quiet for a moment, and everyone's eyes were focused on a figure in front of Emperor Jingtai. That person was Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyi Guards. Only seeing Xia Yongxuan's whole body surging with awe-inspiring true energy, his face stern, the terrifying aura and pressure spread out, overwhelming the tens of thousands of troops, and they couldn't breathe. The murderer just now was Xia Yongxuan's killing move, which broke the bloodless body with just one move. Sheng's blood transforming technique also injured Shui Wuxian. Xia Yongxuan is worthy of being ranked 10th on the Earth ranking. This move alone shows how powerful he is. How dare you massacre our imperial army of the great Zhou dynasty so unscrupulously? No blood will be produced, your crime is unpardonable. Xia Yongxuan's eyes were cold, staring at Shui Wuxian in the distance, and said coldly, "Today you will die, and after today, the evil blood sect will also destroy the section. If you don't bloodbath all the members of your evil blood sect, it will be difficult to eliminate the hatred in my heart." The angry Xia Yongxuan was so terrifying that Shui Wuxian was terrified. If he couldn't help himself, how could he join forces with King Yong'an and plot a rebellion? But he was controlled by others and could only help himself. Blood 210. No. Sheng's eyes swept over the black-robed man beside King Yong'an without leaving a trace, and he was filled with hatred in his heart. Although he was furious and murderous at the moment, Shui Wuxian concealed it very well and never showed it at all. His face remained expressionless and he said nothing. Xia Yongxuan glanced at Shui Wuxian with cold eyes and shouted coldly, "Take your life." As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Yongxuan disappeared from the spot and appeared in the sky above the head of King Yong'an in an instant. With a heavy palm strike, he was heading towards King Yong'an. Xia Yuanhao. Xiao Wuji, who had been watching in secret, saw this scene and couldn't help but feel in his heart. He slandered, rolled his eyes wildly, and complained about Xia Yongxuan's lack of martial ethics. He didn't expect that the dignified commander of the Jinyi Guards, the 10th master on the heavenly ranking, would actually play such a little trick. On the surface, he said he wanted to kill the dead, but in fact, the target is Xia Yuanhao, king of Yong'an. As long as Xia Yuanhao is killed, the rebels will be leaderless and will be defeated. This rebellion can also be declared over. It must be said that although Xia Yongxuan's move does not speak of martial ethics, it is very effective. He is well versed in capturing. The key to the art of war is to capture the king first. Seeing Xia Yongxuan coming towards him, Yong'an King Xia Yuanhao was so frightened that he lost his mind. Xia Yongxuan is a veritable grand master at the pinnacle, 10th on the heavenly ranking. How can he compete with him? Commander Xia would be too arrogant to kill someone in front of our two brothers. Let us learn from Commander Xia's clever trick. Beside King Yong'an, the two old men of gold and silver laughed strangely, and they flew up at the same time to kill Xia Yongxuan. There were two loud bangs. Xia Yongxuan was 1 against 2, and he and the two old men of gold and silver exchanged palms in mid-air. After a palm, the three of them immediately separated. Xia Yongxuan turned over and landed on the ground. His face was not red, he was not out of breath, and he was safe and sound. However, when the two elders landed on the ground, they took 10 steps back, each step crushing the floor tiles of the palace. The two of them his face flushed, and he immediately used his energy and breath to suppress the surging feeling in his heart. Xia Yongxuan was so powerful that even if the gold and silver elders joined forces, they couldn't get any advantage. With such domineering palm power, Commander Xia truly lived up to his reputation. Old Monster Jin said with a sneer. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 147. However, the nether palm of our two brothers is not in vain. Commander Xia must also feel uncomfortable, right? Old Monster Yin chuckled at the side. Xia Yongxuan glanced at the palms of his hands expressionlessly, only to see a wisp of black energy lingering in the palms. It was obviously the poisonous palm power left by the two old men Jin and Yin. These two people came from Miao. The five poison sect of Xinjiang kills people invisible with their poison skills, and poisoning without anyone noticing is what they are best at. If it were anyone else, I am afraid they would have been tricked at this moment. However, Xia Yongxuan did not use gold. The two elders of Yin took it seriously. I saw him using his palms to perform kung fu, and while he was inhaling and puffing out his true energy, he struck out two palms. In an instant, the black energy in his palms disappeared. Xia Yongxuan looked at the two elders of gold and silver and sneered with disdain. It's just a ghost palm, it's just a top-notch martial arts move, don't use it to embarrass yourself. If you two only have this ability, I can kill both of you within 10 moves. As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Yongxuan disappeared on the spot and attacked King Yong'an again. He actually repeated his old tricks and once again played tricks without any sense of martial ethics. Xia Yongxuan, you are also the 10th master on the heavenly ranking, how can you be so shameless? King Yong'an and the two elders of Jin and Yin were all furious. Xia Yongxuan sneered and said, "Face? That thing is bullshit. Doing whatever it takes and doing whatever it takes is my, Xia Yongxuan, style of doing things." Hearing Xia Yongxuan's shameless answer, King Yong'an's eyes widened and he was so angry that his chest almost exploded. King Yong'an had admired Xia Yongxuan before. Although Xia Yongxuan was not his person, as the commander of the Jinyi Guards, Xia Yongxuan was loyal to the imperial power, and always opposed the treacherous minister Li Wenbo to protect the people of the world. Such a majestic, upright, and loyal commander of the Imperial Guard was what every emperor of the Zhou dynasty dreamed of. He would do a sneak attack without any shame. And he stole twice once, which was an eye-opener for him. He himself is also a person who does things by any means. What is a sneak attack to achieve his goal? No matter how despicable the method is, Xiao Wuji can use it. As long as it does not violate his heart, it is nothing. Question. It's all murder, so why should you care whether the means are despicable or not? The two old men, Jin and Yin, flew up and attacked Xia Yongxuan from both sides. The three of them fought together. The speed of the three of them was extremely fast, and outsiders could only see the after-images flying. Flashed by. At this moment, King Yong'an on horseback looked at the man in black robe beside him. The cold eyes of the man in black robe flashed with a cold light, and he instantly flew up from the horse and killed Emperor Jingtai. King Yong'an looked at Emperor Jingtai in the distance with mocking eyes and a sneer on his lips. Isn't it just to catch the thief first to catch the king? Not only you can do it, but I can too. Your Majesty, be careful. Dongchang Changgong Cao Wan Chun immediately protected Emperor Jingtai behind him and faced the men in black robes who were charging towards him. The 60 years boy's kung fu was fully activated, and the 3-foot air wall defended the inside and outside, and Pei Mo could not stop it. The man in black robe struck down with a heavy palm, and the terrifying true energy turned into a bloody giant palm that hit Cao Wanchun's 3-foot chi wall. With a loud bang, Cao Wanchun was knocked back several steps, and the 3-foot chi wall was directly shaken out of cracks. Almost collapsed. Cao Wanchun's eyes widened and he was extremely horrified. He never expected that this most inconspicuous man in black robe would be so terrifying that he almost defeated him with one palm. Among the 4 great masters around King Yong'an, this black man, the man in black robe, is the strongest. Cao Wanchun was secretly shocked, knowing that he would never be his match in a single fight. He immediately grabbed Emperor Jingtai's shoulder and quickly retreated, keeping a distance from the man in black robe. If he was the only one, Cao Wanchun may choose to fight with the man in black robe. Although he is not an opponent, he can still be entangled for a while. But Emperor Jingtai is by his side at the moment, and he cannot fight with the man in black robe while protecting Emperor Jingtai. Once exposed, if there is a flaw, Emperor Jingtai will undoubtedly die. Protecting the emperor's safety is the most important, so Cao Wanchun directly chooses to avoid the edge temporarily. Protect me quickly. Seeing that Cao Wanchun was no match for the man in black robe, Yuan Xiong, Xia Yongxuan and many captains and lieutenants rushed towards Emperor Jingtai, trying to protect him. Xia Yongxuan was the fastest and instantly got rid of the entanglement of the gold and silver elders and rushed towards Emperor Jingtai. The man in black robe won with one move, and just as he was about to take advantage of the victory to pursue him, he felt a dense and cold murderous intention coming from behind him. Roar! With a shocking roar, the ferocious beast reappeared in the world, and went straight to the heart of the man in black robe. Facing Xia Yongxuan's killing move, the man in black robe did not dare to be careless at all, and immediately turned around to take the move. The huge blood-colored true energy gathered into one, turned into a bloody skeleton, and faced the ferocious beast Qianqi face to face. Boom, the killing move. After the collision, the true essence exploded. The palace floor tiles were overturned layer by layer, and the surrounding forbidden army soldiers were thrown away, and they all vomited blood and flew upside down. Several forbidden soldiers who did not escape in time were torn apart by the true essence on the spot, leaving no intact corpses. Xia Yongxuan turned over. He landed in front of Emperor Jingtai, looked at the man in black robe solemnly, and said coldly, "Who are you? What kind of hero is he who hides his head and shows his tail?" "Yu Ben." The man in black robe took a few steps back, stabilized his figure, let out a few weird laughs and said, "A hero? I have never been a hero. I came here today just to kill people, Dog Emperor, tonight is the day you die." As soon as he finished speaking, the man in black robe took action again and fought fiercely with Xia Yongxuan. Xiao Wuji hid in the dark, preparing to attack, looking for an opportunity to take action. Although Xia Yongxuan's approach did not speak of martial ethics, it was essentially right. Then that is to capture the thief first and capture the king first. As long as the Yong'an king Xia Yuanhao is eliminated, the rebels will be leaderless and collapse without a fight. Just when corpses are scattered in front of the Deluo Palace and blood flows like rivers, an uninvited guest comes to the Wanbao Pavilion of the Imperial Palace. Wanbao Pavilion is an important place in the palace. It houses countless royal treasures and magical secrets. It is usually heavily guarded. Tonight, King Yong'an rebelled, and half of the troops stationed in Wanbao Pavilion were transferred away. But even if it was only half, the guards were still tight. And there are still people in Wanbao Pavilion. There are 2 great masters and elders guarding the pavilion. In terms of guard strength, they are second only to Tongtian Pavilion and the Emperor's side. Whoosh! A blood shadow fell from the sky and instantly appeared among the many guarding imperial troops. Among them, it was an old man wearing blood clothes and with a majestic aura. Although he was also wearing blood clothes, the power of this old man was several times stronger than that of Shui Wuxian. "Who? How dare you force your way into Wanbao Pavilion? He must be a rebel against the king, kill him quickly. Come on, everyone. A captain general saw the blood shadow approaching and immediately issued a kill order. But before the soldiers guarding the pavilion took action, they were overwhelmed by a terrifying aura. They all froze in place and could not move. Boom! A blast. The blood-colored true energy erupted from the old man's body, swept out, and instantly passed over all the soldiers guarding the pavilion. Poof! 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 Only a series of muffled sounds were heard, and the bodies of all the soldiers guarding the pavilion exploded, leaving no intact corpses. Even the leader of the 1,000 Captain General was no exception. Killing them was as simple as killing a group of ants. With a whoosh, the old man in blood rushed into the Wanbao Pavilion. The two Grand Masters and elders guarding the pavilion had long heard what was going on outside. When they saw the movement, they saw the old man in blood-clothed clothes breaking in, and immediately launched an offensive. The two of them, one on the left and the other on the right, made close killing moves, going straight to the vital point, hoping to kill them with one strike. However, the old man in blood-clothed clothes passed them by in an instant without even looking. Look at the two people. With a pop, the heads of the two masters flew up, and their souls were shattered. The old man in blood clothes began to climb the stairs, without stopping for a moment on the way. He discarded all the precious treasures and magical secrets in Wanbao Pavilion like tumbleweeds, and climbed directly to the 10th floor. Boom! The terrifying true energy swept away, instantly setting off a violent wind and air wave, sweeping across the entire 10th floor of Wanbao Pavilion. Only 3 feet of land was not affected by the air wave. I saw in the center of the 10th floor of Wanbao Pavilion in the area, there are 2 old men wearing Buddhist robes, with ring scars on their heads, and wrinkled faces sitting cross-legged on the ground. These 2 people are clearly 2 Buddhist monks. They are the Grand Masters of Wanbao Pavilion, and they are already in Wanbao Pavilion. They have been guarding the pavilion for more than 20 years, and there has never been any mistakes. Seeing the old man in blood clothes breaking in, the 2 eminent monks slowly opened their eyes. Amitba, Your Excellency has such profound cultivation. If you have such cultivation, why did you force yourself into Wanbao Pavilion? One of the eminent monks spoke, his face neither sad nor happy, as if he was practicing Buddhism properly. You should know that Wanbao Pavilion is an important part of the palace, and any trespassers will be punished by the 9 clans. It is unwise to commit such a heinous crime just for a moment of greed. Another eminent monk also spoke. The old man in blood-clothed glanced at the 2 great masters guarding the pavilion indifferently, and said calmly, This Wanbao Pavilion was originally my own. I'm going back to my home. Is there any problem? As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the 2 Grand Masters who guarded the pavilion suddenly changed slightly, and a trace of shock flashed in their eyes. Who are you? The blood-clothed figure shouted coldly, Those who are about to die don't need to ask any more questions. Die. Before he finished speaking, the blood-clothed figure took action boldly. He raised his hand and smacked it with a palm, and the vast true energy turned into a bloody giant palm and struck at the 2 Grand Masters guarding the pavilion. The bloody giant palm covered the sky and the earth, like Mount Tai pressing down on the top, and it was impossible to avoid the enemy. The power crushed them down. Naturally, the 2 great masters would not sit back and wait to be killed. They quickly destroyed their true energy and counterattacked strongly. The money is good. One person put his hands together, and heard a loud clang. A golden bell appeared out of thin air, covering the 2 of them. It was a Buddhist golden bell. The golden bell cover is a unique skill of Buddhism, divided into 12 levels. It is widely spread in the world, but it is easy to learn and difficult to master. Third-rate and second-rate martial artists in the world may have practiced for a few days, but they were all fake moves and had no power at all. Only when the golden bell is practiced to the 9th level or above can it be considered a great achievement and can be called a magical defensive skill. If you practice to the 12th level, you will be considered complete. At that time, it will be invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire. Even if the fire burns for 7 days and 7 nights, it will still be unscathed. It can be said that it is physically invincible. However, since ancient times, only a few people have been able to practice the golden bell shade to the 12 levels of perfection. And looking at the golden bell displayed by the Grand Master of guarding the pavilion, it is impressively complete. It has at least the 9th level of cultivation, and it is possible that it is the 10th or 11th level. After the golden bell appeared, another Grand Master guarding the pavilion immediately counterattacked. I saw that he was using his energy, and when he struck out with a palm, the shadow of his palm divided into 2, 2 into 4, and 4 into 8, and instantly turned into a palm shadow that filled the sky, and blasted towards the giant bloody palm. This is the thousand-armed Tathagata palm, which is also one of the unique skills of Buddhism. The two Buddhist monks took action at the same time, one defending and the other attacking. They cooperated tacitly, and the attack and defense were seamless. A trace of disdain flashed in the blood-clothed old man's eyes, and his huge blood-colored palm suddenly fell down, meeting the palm of the thousand-armed Tathagata. There was a loud bang, and the golden palm shadow in the sky collapsed the moment it touched the bloody giant palm, just like ice meeting fire, and it didn't even last half a breath. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 148. There was a loud bang, and the golden palm shadow in the sky collapsed the moment it touched the bloody giant palm, just like ice meeting fire, and it didn't even last half a breath. The power of the palm is not exhausted, but the killing intent is endless. The giant bloody palm continued to crush down, slamming down on the golden bell. Only a clang was heard, and the golden bell with unparalleled defense was shattered. The true energy exploded, and the two eminent monks were immediately swept away by the true energy, causing blood to flow from their mouths and noses. Before the two eminent monks could retreat, the bloody giant palm continued to strike hard at them both. With a bang, the two eminent monks were shot backwards. There was a crackling sound all over their bodies, and many bones and meridians were broken. The two fell heavily to the ground, vomiting blood. They were already seriously injured and had no power to fight back. With just one move, the old man in blood-clothed defeated the two great masters guarding the pavilion. The battle was a one-sided crushing force, which shows how terrifying the old man in blood-clothed is. Blood Slayer. You are the blood demon Nether Spring. The two eminent monks who were seriously injured and defeated looked at the old man in blood, with horror flashing in their eyes, and they cried out. Yes, I am the blood demon. The old man in blood-clothed clothes stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the Grand Master guarding the pavilion like two dead dogs, with a trace of disdain flashing in his eyes. I thought the eminent Buddhist monks were so powerful, but they turned out to be just two worthless losers. Buddhism has been passed down for thousands of years, but it is just a vain name. Amitabha. The two eminent monks stood up with all their strength, sat cross-legged, chanted the Buddha's name softly, closed their eyes and recited the Purana Sutra. The two of them knew that in their current state, it was impossible to survive the blood demon. This Purana Sutra was theirs. I read it for myself. The blood demon is the leader of the 3 demons and 6 emperors of the demon cult, ranking 11th on the heavenly ranking. His strength in the demon cult is second only to the leader of the demon cult, Shangguan Wudao. It can be said that except for the ancestor of the heavenly man, the blood demon the devil is the second master of the devil sect. You two bald donkeys take the first step. One day, sooner or later, I will send the entire Buddhist sect to hell. If you collude with the Xia clan, betray my Shangguan clan, and exterminate the Buddhist heritage, it will be difficult to eliminate the hatred in my heart. When I think of the Xia clan's rebellion more than 100 years ago, Buddhism was also involved. For hundreds of years, the demon sect's hatred of Buddhism was second only to the Xia clan. So every time the demon sect's leader passed on, the successor he wants to kill an important figure in the Xia family or Buddhism to prove that he is qualified to succeed the leader of the demon section. The current leader of the demon sect, Shangguan Wudao, became the leader after killing the first master of Xianku in Buddhism. The leader of the demon sect. After killing the two great masters of the pavilion, the blood demon swayed and came to a wall. He turned on the mechanism, and the wall in front of him suddenly cracked from the middle. What appeared behind the wall was a wooden frame. The frame there are all kinds of rare treasures on display. This is the 10th floor of Wanbao Pavilion. All the treasures that can be placed here are the most precious treasures in the world. The priceless blood jade is unique in the world. The blood jade is crystal clear and dazzling, and has the effect of warming and nourishing the meridians of the body. This piece of blood jade alone can be used to replace 3 cities. There are 9th grade top magical secrets. As long as you learn them, you can dominate the world and become an unparalleled powerhouse. There is also a blood jade that is as red as blood, enough there is a blood ginseng the size of an adult's arm. This blood ginseng is several times larger than the one Xiaoji sent back to Jinling last time. It is at least more than 500 years old. It is a peerless medicine of the highest quality in the world. Can be encountered but cannot be sought. This is the blood ginseng obtained by the founder of the Zhou dynasty, and has been enshrined in the Wanbao Pavilion. Even Emperor Jingtai, who made elixirs to seek immortality and become a demon, never had any idea of it. However, the blood demon he didn't even look at these treasures, and just discarded them like crap. After opening the last wooden box, the blood demon finally showed a smile on his old face, and there was some faint excitement in his expression. I saw inside the wooden box. 2 pieces of broken jade lay quietly, and 2 broken animal skins were padded under the broken jade. If Xiaoji were here, he would definitely recognize that the broken jade and animal skins in the box are almost exactly the same as those in his hands. The blood demon carefully put the broken jade into his arms, and opened the 2 animal skins to look at them. After confirming that they were correct, he carefully put them into the interlayer of his underwear. Unless he was killed, it was impossible to take the broken jade away from him. Jade and broken pictures. Obviously, the treasure in this wooden box is what the blood demon wants. Compared with this treasure, blood jade, 9th level magical skills, and blood ginseng are all garbage. Finally got it? The blood demon was satisfied, with an excited smile on his lips. At this moment, there were rapid footsteps outside the Wanbao Pavilion, and torches were lit up. Some Forbidden Army soldiers discovered that the Wanbao Pavilion had been invaded, and reinforcements had arrived. The blood demon, with his keen hearing, he naturally noticed the strange movement outside immediately. But his goal today has been achieved, and he doesn't want to waste time with these minions anymore. The blood demon casually grabbed the 2 unicorn statues on the shelf, and disappeared with a sway. Disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already arrived outside Wanbao Pavilion. Where is he? Catch him quickly, don't let him escape. The traitors should not leave, but leave their lives behind. Although it was dark night, the Forbidden Army soldiers still discovered the blood demon on the roof. The leader of the team gave an order, and suddenly thousands of arrows fired, blood. However, the blood demon did not even look at these little minions, and waved his sleeves. He shot all the arrows back, killing a large number of Forbidden Army soldiers. At the same time, the true energy in his palms condensed and poured into a unicorn statue. The blood demon threw the unicorn statue violently, and a shocking roar suddenly resounded through the sky. I saw the darkness of the night. Down, the Kylan statue rose in the wind and instantly transformed into a huge fire-breathing Kylan. The Kylan stepped on the void, its body burning with flames, roaring and rushed into the Wanbao pavilion. With a loud bang, the entire Wanbao pavilion instantly transformed. It was a huge fireball. Terrifying flames and shock waves spread out in all directions, swallowing up and annihilating the earth. Wherever the aftermath of the explosion went, everyone and everything was destroyed. Hundreds of forbidden troops were swept away by the aftermath of the explosion, swung past, everyone vomited blood and fell into pieces. The power of the explosion of the Kirin statue was almost the same as a full-strength blow from a peak grandmaster. Even if a peak grandmaster was hit at close range, he would be seriously injured. When the aftermath passed, the flames dissipated. The 10-story, splendid Wanbao pavilion had been completely razed to the ground, leaving only a pile of ruins. A huge crater was blown out where the Wanbao pavilion was originally located. The edges are full of the stumps and broken arms of the Forbidden Army soldiers. The smell of burning and gunpowder smoke is everywhere, and screams and wails come one after another. The blood demon is standing on the roof of the palace in the distance. On the top, looking at the disappearing Wanbao pavilion, I couldn't help laughing heartily. This Kirin statue is the most powerful gunpowder weapon in the world today, the furious Kirin. It is your honor to die under the angry unicorn. The blood demon's icy gaze swept over the many broken limbs, and his figure swayed, turning into a blood shadow and teleporting 7 or 8 feet away. After a few flickers, he completely disappeared into the night sky. The angry unicorn made a shocking move. Explosion, the loud noise spread throughout every corner of the palace. In front of the Deluo Hall, fires broke out, illuminating the battlefield as bright as day. Xia Yongxuan, the man in black robe, the 2 elders of gold and silver, Shui Wuxian, Yuan Xiong, and others were fighting in blood. As well as the emperor and King Yong'an, they all heard the loud noise for the first time. That is the direction of Wanbao pavilion. Emperor Jingtai looked from a distance and saw thick flames rising into the sky where Wanbao pavilion was. The flames illuminated the sky and illuminated the entire palace. Even from such a distance, he could still see the raging flames rising into the sky. Just looking at the sea of fire and movement, Emperor Jingtai had already guessed the truth. The Wanbao pavilion was destroyed. The royal family's centuries-old collection of countless rare treasures and magical secrets were all turned into charcoal. This is irreparable for the royal family. Huge loss. Xia Yuan, how, you, an unworthy descendant, dare to do such a thing? Are you worthy of your ancestors? Emperor Jingtai stared directly at King Yong'an, roaring and roaring, with a ferocious expression, like a tiger roaring and a dragon roaring, and the majesty of the emperor exploded instantly. At this moment, Emperor Jingtai felt as if he had eaten King Yong'an. A trace of doubt flashed in King Yong'an's heart. In his plan, there was no part of the invasion of Wanbao pavilion. But now that the matter has come to this, he does not need to deny it. He has even rebelled and blood-bathed the palace, but does he still care about the small Wanbao pavilion? He is here. Among the crowd, only the man in black robes had a flash of excitement in his eyes when he heard the loud explosion from Wanbao pavilion. But he did not dare to be distracted for a moment, because Xia Yongxuan's killing move had already arrived. Xia Yongxuan, commander of the Jinyi guards, he is the 10th master on the heavenly ranking. The man in black robe is no match for him when fighting alone. Fortunately, Wuxia Wuxian teamed up with him to be able to struggle with Xia Yongxuan. However, even if he was 1 against 2, Xia Yongxuan always had the upper hand and suppressed him. The black-robed man and Shui Wuxian fought. Shui Wuxian's old injuries plus new injuries reduced his combat power to less than 70%. Over time, Xia Yongxuan will surely win. On another battlefield, Yuan Xiong held off old monster Jin, and the two were evenly matched. In the end, Xia Yongxuan was able to win. The easy ones were Dong Chang Chang Gong Cao Wan Chun and Yin Lao Gai, who guarded Emperor Jingtai and King Yong'an respectively, killing the approaching soldiers for them. Good chance. At the moment when everyone's attention was attracted by the shocking loud noise of Wanbao Pavilion, Xiao Wuji, who had been hiding in the dark, finally took action. The full-level lightning god moved forward, although it was only 60% of the peak speed, but outsiders all he could see was a streak of lightning that cut through the sky. The lightning flashed past, tearing through the night, and instantly came to the back of King Yong'an, followed by a cold, moon-like sword light. The sword light suddenly appeared, and the world all was cold, bringing endless despair and death. Only the cry of a knife was heard, and several of the guards around King Yong'an were cut into pieces on the spot. People and horses were chopped into pieces. Even the people who had been guarding King Yong'an were cut into pieces. The old monster Yin beside him didn't have time to react, and an arm was chopped off by Xiao Wuji on the spot. If this knife exploded with full force, the old monster Yin would only be chopped into a bloody mist by Xiao Wuji. The bloody broken arm shot into the sky. Standing up, old monster Yin was stunned for a moment, as if he was still living in a dream. When the severe pain hit, old monster Yin immediately covered his broken arm and howled miserably. Just as King Yong'an was about to react, his neck was grabbed, and then in front of him it was dark, and the world was spinning. When he came back to his senses, he had been caught by Xiao Wuji and came to the steps in front of Emperor Jingtai. The sudden change shocked everyone on the battlefield, and they never expected that the situation would change so quickly. King Yong'an, who was still confronting the emperor earlier, was captured alive the next second. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 149. Xiao Wuji, it's you. After Xiao Wuji appeared, the most excited people were not Xia Yongxuan and Yuan Xiong, but the man in black robe and Shui Wuxian. When he saw Xiao Wuji appeared, the man in black robe was furious, with murderous intent overflowing. Shui Wuxian's body he also burst out with cold murderous intent, looking directly at Xiao Wuji, his eyes as cold as poisonous snakes, which made people shudder. The enemy who killed his son was right in front of him, and Shui Wuxian only had one idea now, that is to go up and cut Xiao Wuji's body into pieces, Wanduan, broken bones and ashes. However, Xia Yongxuan's existence made him dare not act rashly. After half a breath, Yuan Xiong also noticed Xiao Wuji's appearance, and suddenly laughed excitedly. Well done, Wuji, you really didn't let it go. The third brother is disappointed. Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyi guards, forced the black-robed man back with one palm and laughed loudly. Okay, you are indeed the 13th Taibao of my Jinyi Wei. You have made a great contribution this time. Emperor Jingtai and Cao Wan Chun also looked at Xiao Wuji. Emperor Jingtai was slightly shocked, and then nodded with satisfaction. He knew Xiao Wuji's name. The 13 eunuchs of the Jinyi guards of the great Zhou dynasty were his most trusted, the confidant. Cao Wan Chun was half on guard and half envious in his heart. The wariness was reasonable. As the emperor's guard, he was wary of anyone who came close to the emperor. Xiao Wuji appeared too suddenly, and wariness was his instinctive reaction. As for envy, it was his instinctive reaction. I just envy Xia Yongxuan. Xiao Wuji is a member of Jinyi Wei. This time he captured King Yong'an alive and made great achievements. Jinyi Wei will gain more trust from Emperor Jingtai in the future. Comparing the two, the people of Dongchang seem a bit weak in this counterinsurgency operation. It's useless. So far, I haven't made any great contribution. King Yong'an was captured alive, and the morale of the rebels under his command suddenly collapsed. The imperial army took advantage of the victory to pursue and surrounded the rebel army. Under the banner of the rebel commander, his arm was broken. The old silver monster covered his wound, stared at Xiao Wuji, and roared angrily. Damn little beast, you unexpectedly attacked me, You are despicable. There is no treasure in this world where a broken arm can be reborn. Old Monster Yin's broken arm today means that he will be disabled from now on. Even if he can escape alive today, his strength will be greatly reduced in the future, and there will be no possibility of breakthrough in this life. The hatred of breaking an arm and blocking the road was worse than killing his father and mother, which made old Monster Yin hate Xiao Wuji extremely. If eyes could kill, Xiao Wuji would have been riddled with wounds and his body would not be intact. Xiao Wuji grabbed King Yong'an, he sealed the big points all over his body, then looked at old Monster Yin, and sneered disdainfully, I am an official and you are a thief. It is natural for me to arrest you. What is so despicable? My name is Xiao Wuji, and I have always done everything in my life to the best of my ability. I can use even the most despicable means to deal with you group of audacious rebels. Well said, you should use all possible means to deal with these rebels and traitors. Emperor Jingtai took a step forward and shouted loudly, you damn traitors of the demon sect, you rebels against the ministers and the party, everyone will punish you. At this moment, the defeat has been decided. If you don't just surrender, when will you wait? Shocked by Emperor Jingtai's imperial majesty, the rebels were even more disorganized. At this time, Emperor Jingtai looked at Xiao Wuji and said, are you Xiao Wuji? I have heard of your name a long time ago, but I have never summoned you. When I saw him today, he was indeed worthy of his reputation. He was truly the #1 young talent in our great Zhou dynasty. Received the emperor's golden words of commendation, Xiao Wuji quickly bowed and saluted, pretending to be frightened and replied, your majesty has given you such a reward, I am ashamed to deserve it. I have received many favors from your majesty, so I should be loyal to you, patriotic, and die for your majesty. What you did today was really your duty as a humble minister. Well said. Emperor Jingtai was even more satisfied with Xiao Wuji's humble attitude. He knew that young people are arrogant. Xiao Wuji was already a master of martial arts at a young age and held a high position. It is normal for such a person to be somewhat arrogant and domineering. But Xiao Wuji was different. He had always been modest and cautious, which made Emperor Jingtai even more satisfied. At this moment, the electronic sound of the system sounded in Xiao Wuji's mind. Ding, it was detected that the host captured King Yong'an alive and completed the task of capturing the king and rescuing him. Do you want to receive the reward? Receive. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the full-level cloud-expelling palm. The rewards are being distributed and have been completed. The electronic sound of the system fell, and a huge message instantly poured into Xiao Wuji's mind. The familiar villain quickly practiced the palm skills, and Xiao Wuji's understanding of the Pei-Yun palm instantly reached the full level. The Pei-Yun palm comes from the world of wind and cloud. Han Yun, the meaning of impermanence is that the moves are erratic, elusive, and extremely powerful. It is one of the 3 unique magical skills. The Pei-Yun palm is divided into 12 moves in total. Each move is stronger than the last. It is a unique palm technique. Good martial arts. Xiao Wuji was very excited in his heart, but on the surface he remained calm and did not reveal anything strange. Outsiders did not notice at all that Xiao Wuji's strength had improved in the past few breaths. Let me go, let me go. You damn little beast, how dare you capture me? At this moment, King Yong'an, who was held by Xiao Wuji, suddenly struggled and cursed at Xiao Wuji. Damn you little beast, I will definitely kill you and destroy your 9 tribes. Bang. Before King Yong'an finished speaking, Emperor Jingtai kicked him in the face, breaking his nose and several teeth on the spot. You, an unfaithful, unfilial, and unjust traitor, how dare you bark here at this time? Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Emperor Jingtai's face was ferocious, and his eyes were rounded, as if he was about to swallow King Yong'an alive. The emperor's aura burst out, suffocating King Yong'an, and quickly asked for help from the black-robed man in the distance. Mr. Tu, the two old men of gold and silver, come and save this king. As long as I can be rescued, I promise to double your treasures and resources, no, triple them. He can't save you, and no one can save you now. Emperor. Jingtai kicked King Yongan in the face again, stomped his head on the ground, and shouted coldly, "You still don't know how to repent now, do you think he, a demon from a demon sect, would care about your life or death? No. No, Mr. Tu is not a demon cultist. You stupid king, don't slander me. My purpose today is to kill the stupid king and help the country. I have never colluded with demons from the demon section." Wang Yong'an yelled, refusing to admit that he had colluded with the demon sect at all. Thinking about it, it is reasonable. Regardless of whether King Yong'an knows it or not, he will pretending not to know, and refusing to admit it until death. Otherwise, he will lose his justice. Even if the rebellion succeeds, he will be eradicated by the ancestor of the royal family. Mr. Tu, come and save me. King Yong'an was trampled under the feet of Emperor Jingtai, and he looked hopefully at the black-robed man and the gold and silver elders in the distance. However, the man in black robe did not make the move that King Yong'an imagined. He did not save people, but stood there and watched coldly. The man in black robe sneered in his heart. He was the one who caused the dog-eat-dog fight among the royal family. How could he help others now? Seeing that the situation was not good, the two old men of gold and silver stood together and did not rush to save people. Now that King Yong'an has been captured alive and the rebels are surrounded, they have been completely at a disadvantage. The two old men, Jin and Yin, were originally people who were willing to act according to the wind. Now that the situation is not good for them, they have already decided to quit. King Yong'an has long been captured. They left it behind. Seeing that the black-robed man and the gold and silver elders were all indifferent, King Yong'an was still struggling for help. He looked so embarrassed and crazy, and his manners were completely lost. How could he look like a prince? He was just a beggar on the roadside. Of wild dogs. GGG, it would be great if all the Zhou royal family were idiots like you. The man in black robe suddenly laughed strangely, looked at King Yong'an and sneered, "If the royal family are all idiots like you, why can't my Shangguan clan still be restored to the country today?" When the man in black robe said this, it was equivalent to admitting his identity as a traitor to the demon sect. Shut up. Shut up. You can't be from the demon cult, shut up. King Yong'an looked at the man in black robe with ferocious eyes and roared as if he was crazy. No matter what, he could not be convinced that he was colluding with the demon cult. However, the next second, he was kicked away by Emperor Jingtai. You have to count money for others after being sold. How can there be a fool like you in the royal family? Having a brother like you is really the greatest shame in my life. This angry kick directly bent the neck of King Yong'an. If King Yong'an was not still breathing, others would have thought that he was kicked to death by Emperor Jingtai. Seeing that King Yong'an was kicked to the point of dying, Emperor Jingtai moved in disgust. He opened his eyes, looked at the man in black robes, and said with a gloomy expression, "You are so courageous. You dare to incite me, Prince Zhou, to rebel, and you dare to rush into the palace. I really think I have nothing to do with you group of traitors. Any solution?" The man in black robe took off his black robe, revealing an old and solemn face, and said with a sneer, "Don't you think the scene tonight is very interesting? The emperor of the Zhou dynasty and his younger brother fought against each other and killed each other. How exciting is this dog-eat-dog farce? If this news spreads, how will the people of the world view you as the emperor? Presumably several countries such as Bian, Nanliang, Yekan, and Hanhai would also be happy to see the civil strife in the great Zhou dynasty. When the world is in chaos and all the heroes rise up, how many more years can your Zhou court last?" As soon as the man in black robe finished speaking, he heard a roar, "Stop the traitor and stop being so arrogant." Xia Yongxuan took action, and struck with anger, directly taking the head of the demon sect rebel. The old man from the demon sect flew back, swayed, and teleported 7 or 8 feet away, escaping this killing move. There was a loud bang. There was a sound, and a huge hole was made where the man in black robe originally stood. Who are you? With such strength, you will never be an unknown person in the demon section. Xia Yongxuan turned over and landed on the ground, looking at the man in black robes. His eyes were cold and murderous. The man in black robes smiled coldly, held his head high and said proudly, "My surname is Shangguan, and my name is Tu Ba. I am a descendant of the Orthodox royal family and of the blood of the emperor. Of course, you can also call me by another name, Ghost Emperor, 7 Kills and Soul Eater. Are you the Ghost Emperor?" As soon as the word Ghost Emperor was uttered, Xia Yongxuan, Yuan Xiang, Xiao Wuji and Emperor Jingtai's eyes widened instantly. The Ghost Emperor is the demon sect's biggest thorn in Jinling City. Jin Yiwei has already found this out, and Emperor Jingtai also. They had known this information for a long time. But they had no idea what the Ghost Emperor looked like, how old he was, whether he was a boy or a girl. Now that the demon sect Ghost Emperor was standing in front of them, Xia Yongxuan, Yuan Xiang and Emperor Jingtai were extremely excited. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 150. This is one of the 6 guardians of the demon sect, the highest among the highest. If the Ghost Emperor can be captured alive, he can interrogate more information about the demon cult, which will definitely be the biggest gain in decades. Emperor Jingtai immediately ordered, "Xia Yongxuan, arrest this traitor, remember, don't let him die." The minister obeys the order. Xia Yongxuan immediately accepted the order. In fact, even if Emperor Jingtai didn't give the order, Xia Yongxuan planned to take action. "You dare to enter the palace today, which is your greatest unwiseness. Stay, you have no way to escape tonight." After Xia Yongxuan finished speaking, the person disappeared in place. The strange beast galloped and roared, carrying an overwhelming momentum and the intimidation of thousands of troops, and bit into the demon sect Ghost Emperor. Unexpectedly, in the face of Xia Yongxuan's terrifying killing move, the Emperor did not dodge, but smiled disdainfully. Just when the ferocious beast Qianqi rushed in front of the Ghost Emperor, a bloody giant palm fell from the sky and slapped the ferocious beast Qianqi on the head. There was a loud bang. Qianqi with a wailing sound, the scene was torn apart, turning into endless true energy and exploding. Xia Yongxuan burst out of the air, turned over and retreated. Looking up, he saw a bloody figure falling from the sky in the dark night, under the moonlight. It was terrifying. The momentum and coercion burst out from the man, overwhelming the tens of thousands of troops on the field. The person who came was the leader of the 3 demons of the demon sect, the blood demon Yuquan 990. "You came." When the Ghost Emperor saw the arrival of the blood demon, he was overjoyed and hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Have you got the thing?" The Ghost Emperor knew that the blood demon had come to support him, so he dared to expose his identity blatantly. The blood demon nodded and said, "We got it." Then the blood demon looked directly at Xia Yongxuan and said calmly, "You go first. Just let me try to see how strong the 10th ranked player is." The Ghost Emperor is no match for Xia Yongxuan, but the blood demon is not afraid of Xia Yongxuan at all. Who is stronger and who is weaker between the two will only be known after a fight. "Okay, over to you." The Ghost Emperor knows the strength of the blood demon. If he is alone, it will not be difficult to escape. The goal tonight has been achieved, and it is meaningless for them to stay. Compared with their true purpose, whether or not to kill Emperor Jingtai seems to be a problem. It doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, after tonight's commotion, Emperor Jingtai's majesty has been greatly damaged, and the subsequent effects will soon appear. With a whoosh, the Ghost Emperor turned into a black shadow, teleported to the roof of the palace, and flew away into the distance. Seeing the ghost emperor retreating, the two elders Jin Yin and Shui Wuxian immediately flew away. The situation was over now. If they didn't retreat, they would really die here. The traitors should leave. Xia Yongxuan shouted angrily. Just as he was about to step forward to chase the ghost emperor, he was stopped by the blood demon. Xia Yongxuan, your opponent is me. The blood demon struck out with a palm, and unleashed the magical blood butcher hand. It was extremely domineering and unparalleled in power. Xia Yongxuan naturally recognized the martial arts of the blood butcher hand, and shouted coldly, I didn't expect that except for the ghost emperor, even the demon sect's the second master, blood demon Yuquan, also came in person. You traitors to the demonic sect are truly audacious and deserve death. Xia Yongxuan punched out with his backhand, and a sonic boom sounded instantly. The fist turned into a shadow of fists all over the sky. Xia Yongxuan seemed to have punched hundreds of punches in an instant. The shadow of fists all over the sky hit the blood butcher's hand and blasted it to pieces on the spot. There was a loud bang, and the terrifying true energy exploded. The energy swept away, and Xia Yongxuan and the blood demon both stepped back more than 10 steps. After a collision, the two were evenly matched. Xia Yongxuan and the blood demon were evenly matched. The demon's eyes were like lightning. The two of them looked at each other and flew into the air in an instant. The two of them were extremely fast in Qinggong. Their fists and palms met. In the blink of an eye, they had already executed 20 or 30 moves on each other. Everyone only saw the afterimage flashing away. However, Gorfiend and Xia Yongxuan had already appeared on the roof of another palace. Waves of true energy poured out, shattering the surrounding palaces into pieces. The two top masters of the heaven ranking fought fiercely, and the aftermath was too terrifying. It was Grand Master Shen. If you fall into it, you will be instantly beaten into blood mist, leaving no bones left. On the other side, Yuan Xiong and Xiao Wuji took action at the same time, chasing the two old men of gold and silver. Among the two old men of gold and silver, there was old Monster Yin, a man with a broken arm and a serious injury. Their success rate is higher. Gold and silver, you two can't leave. Yuan Xiong roared angrily, flew down behind the two elders of gold and silver, and struck down with a palm from the sky, hitting the heart of the two of them. The two elders of gold and silver looked at each other, and the two separated instantly, one on the left and the other on the roof of a palace. Both sides. Yuan Xiong, don't bully others too much. The two elders of gold and silver were furious and gnashed their teeth. Yuan Xiong sneered. You two followed King Yong'an to rebel and entered the palace. You have already committed a heinous crime. Now you actually have the nerve to ask me not to bully others too much. You have no brains. Something wrong. Die. Yuan Xiong shouted angrily and killed old Monster Jin. Xiao Wuji, on the other hand, went up to the heavy. Little beast, you actually dare to walk in front of me. Compared to Yuan Xiong, old Monster Yin obviously hated Xiao Wuji more because Xiao Wuji cut off one of his arms. The moment he saw Xiao Wuji, his eyes turned red and his teeth squeaked, as if he wanted to kill him. The back molars were crushed. Xiao Wuji couldn't help but sneered and said, what am I afraid of? You are now a waste with a broken arm. How much success do you still have? My sword hasn't drunk enough blood tonight, so it's time to sacrifice the head on your neck to my sword. Swaying Quangdao is a psychic sword. It senses the murderous intention of the owner, automatically unsheathes it, and falls into Xiao Wuji's hand. The cold sword energy spreads out, instantly freezing the tiles under Xiao Wuji's feet. The frost quickly spread to the feet of the old Monster Yin. The temperature of the surrounding air dropped rapidly, causing the old Monster Yin, who had already lost too much blood, to tremble. The little beast is looking for death. Old Monster Yin suddenly gritted his teeth and flew towards Xiao Wuji. The iron crutch held tightly in his left hand spun like a poisonous snake, stabbing at Xiao Wuji's throat. Xiao Wuji. throat. Wuxia swung his sword and slashed horizontally. The sword suddenly appeared and hit the iron crutch. With a clang, the killing move was broken, and the old monster Yin retreated continuously. His mouth was torn apart, his flesh and blood were blurred, and he almost couldn't hold the iron crutch weapon. It was broken. Losing one arm, and it was his dominant right arm, had a great impact on old monster Yin's strength. His current strength is not even half of what he was at his peak. You useless old dog, die. Xiao Wuji flew up in the air, holding the sword in both hands and slashing down angrily. Under the full moon, a sword light suddenly lit up, and the moonlight seemed eclipsed in front of the sword light. What followed was a huge 30-meter sword. Qi struck old monster Yin head on, and it was a shocking glance of the sixth art of Aehan. The knife came hard and fast, and the terrifying force of the knife instantly blocked all old monster Yin's escape routes, making it impossible for him to hide. Hide, there is no way to avoid it, and you can only hit it head on. The old monster Yin destroyed the remaining true energy in his body, poured it all into the iron crutch, and faced Xiao Wuji's sword energy head on. Boom! The 30-meter sword the air crushed down, only a crisp sound was heard, and the iron crutch shattered instantly. Don't want, spare me. Seeing the iron crutch shattered, old monster Yin immediately showed a look of horror on his face and immediately begged for mercy. However, before he could say anything, the sword energy was already crushing down mercilessly. Clang! The sword energy flashed past, splitting apart the old monster Yin and a side hall at his feet. The side hall was torn into pieces, but the old monster Yin had no bones left, completely turning into blood mist and disappearing into thin air. Little brother. When old monster Jin saw old monster Yin being killed by Xiao Wuji, his eyes suddenly burst into tears and he screamed wildly. The two old men Jin and Yin are brothers from the same mother. They have never been separated since they were born. They have been together for decades. Getting along made their relationship extremely deep. Now that Xiao Wuji killed old monster Yin, old monster Jin almost went crazy, and immediately rushed towards Xiao Wuji with red eyes. However, at this moment, Yuan Xiong silently appearing behind old monster Jin, a cold voice suddenly sounded, "You dare to be distracted when you are fighting with me? Court death." With a muffled sound, Yuan Xiong slapped old monster Jin on the back of the heart. The overbearing palm force penetrated the body and hit his internal organs. Old monster Jin raised his head and spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his breath weakened instantly. In a master duel, even the slightest distraction may lead to defeat or even death. The strength of the old monster Jin is not as good as Yuan Xiong. At this moment, he was distracted by the killing of the old monster Yin, revealing a fatal flaw. Naturally, he was Yuan Xiong succeeded with one move and was seriously injured in an instant. Old monster Jin fell to the ground with serious injuries. Yuan Xiong took advantage of the victory to pursue him, bullied him, and pointed at old monster Jin's abdomen. The true energy entered his body and instantly destroyed old monster Jin's body. Danshan, making him a useless person. You ruined my martial arts. Old monster Jin stared at Yuan Xiong, the hatred in his eyes cannot be described in words. Eating his flesh, sleeping on his skin, crushing his bones and raising ashes, and breaking his corpse into thousands of pieces is nothing more than that. For a martial artist, martial arts is everything about him. Yuan Xiong abolished old monster Jin's martial arts and took away everything from him. This made old monster Jin more uncomfortable than death. Yuan Xiong turned over and landed on the ground, sneering conspiracy to rebel and assassinate His Majesty. Do you think you die happily and quickly? I tell you, it is absolutely impossible. You will soon know what it means to live but not to die. Compared to you, old monster Yin is lucky, at least he died without pain. 1.6 Xiao Wuji came to Yuan Xiong and said anxiously, the overall situation of the palace has been decided, but there are still many demon sect killers in Jinling City who have not been solved. I will go to support the brothers of Jin Yiwei first. Yuan Xiong glanced at the palace and saw that the soldiers of the Four Elephants Legion had rushed into the front of the Deluo Palace. The rebels of King Yong'an were no longer able to resist. The overall situation inside the palace was indeed decided, so he nodded and said, "Okay, you go ahead. Be safe. You have made a great contribution today. When you come back, my third brother will ask for the credit for you." Xiao Wuji smiled and said, "Okay, thank you third brother." After saying that, electricity was generated under Xiao Wuji's feet, which turned into a bolt of lightning and shot out, quickly disappearing into the darkness. Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji's disappearing lightning and nodded with satisfaction. He is neither arrogant nor impetuous. He was still dedicated to serving the people. Where could he find such a Jin Yiwei? It was a pity that Yuan Xiong thought wrong. Xiao Wuji hurriedly left, not to kill the demon cult killers and dead men in Jinling City. His target was the Ghost Emperor and Xuewu life. The Ghost Emperor has been hiding for so long, and tonight he finally showed his true nature. How could Xiao Wuji miss this good opportunity? If he couldn't kill the Ghost Emperor tonight, he would disappear and lurk again. Don't even mention killing him then. Even if you want to find him, it is impossible. As for Xue Wuxian, Xiao Wuji has a grudge against him to kill his son, and he cannot let it go.